I'm going to...
And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It is Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann, the co-host, along with my son, Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Folks, for the next 3 hours, we're going to deliver to you some unbiased, uncensored news, analysis, and information which you need to know. In fact, some of the information we have for this show, this is going to be one of the most important shows, I think, that we've done in a long time. That's not to disparage anyone or anything or any other shows.
Just due to the amount of news that has come out today.
And the urgency of the news. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. Folks, our home base is HomelandSecurityUS.com. It's HomelandSecurityUS.com and also CanadaFreePress.com. HomelandSecurityUS.com is where Joe and I operate from on the Internet. And you can also watch us. We're simulcast on the Christians United Broadcasting Network. And just straight up, right out of the gate, we want to thank you very, 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 very much for your continued belief, your continued trust in us. You know, never has your belief, your trust, your support, whether it's in prayers or today I opened the mail and I got a card from someone, and inside the card, I didn't tell you this, so there were two $1 bills. And this person wrote so eloquently that this is all they could do, and that their prayers were behind us. And, you know, I'll tell you what, it was almost like somebody knocked me backwards when I opened that, because it wasn't the gesture, it just struck me. And we are in such perilous times right now, folks. We really are. You've got no idea. And right before, just as the music was playing, I received a call from one of my good friends, a great source, a great patriot to this country. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But, Joe, welcome.
I'm glad to be here tonight. We've got a lot of important news we have to get into. And I guess I'll just start by playing the first clip, the most important thing I saw today. Here's Joe Biden.
The president is going to act, or executive orders, executive action that can be taken. We haven't decided what that is yet, but we're compiling it all with the help of the Attorney General and all the rest of the cabinet members, as well as legislative action we believe is required. So I appreciate you very much being here.
Biden is saying is this is going to be handled through executive order.
Yeah, sorry guys, I had us on mute since after the video played.
All right.
I didn't bring us back. I just brought us back. Let's do this again. Biden, Obama might use executive order to deal with guns. The president is going to act, said Biden, giving some comments to the press before a meeting with victims of gun violence. There are executive orders, there's executive action that can be taken. We haven't decided what that is yet, but we're compiling it with all the help from the Attorney General and the rest of the cabinet members, as well as the legislative action that we believe is required. Biden said that this is a moral issue and that it is critically important that we act. He went on to say that, as the president said, if your actions result only in saving one life, they're worth taking. But I'm convinced we can affect the well-being of millions of Americans and take thousands of people out of harm's way if we act responsibly.
Folks, if you're not troubled by what's going on right now, if there's not your spirit is not stirred deep inside you right now, I don't know what is. I don't know what will be. I don't know what will take your spirit from being troubled. I just don't know, Joe. There are some issues that there's a backstory about what's going on that we need to talk about that does involve Alex Jones and Piers Morgan. They're a big uncovered backstory. I don't even think Alex Jones really covered to the extent that he probably should have, could have, or had the license to. And I think he did this because he did not want to make it about him, although that the left is making this about him. Right before as the music was playing, as I mentioned, the gentleman, a good friend who's a good intelligence source, called and said, "Remember, it's all about the scary guns. It's the evil black rifles. It is about the scary guns. It's about the scary talk about the scary guns." And for as much as people are talking, and I don't want to make this program about Alex Jones, but the more I thought about this,
things that have developed since,
that no one knows about, the public does not know about, that we're going to get into, but the backstory. But you're right. The more I find out about this, and the more I learn about this, the more troubled I am, and the more I realize that we are all in danger. The people that are talking out, as we are, as Jones is, you can see the lines being divided. By the way, there are a number of different things taking place here, and I remember the closing call last night from, I think it was Jason, right? He called and said Alex didn't do any favors he did more to hurt the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Jason? I don't want to put words in.
Yeah, just the very end. He said he wasn't sure because it came off bad in his opinion, and it made people, gun owners, he thought looked bad.
And look, and Jason, I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I certainly don't want to hijack your intent, the intent of what you said. But that's kind of a summation. The last call of the last hour of the last show last night. I understand that.
Yeah, we only had like 60 seconds.
Right. Now, having said that, okay, if you hear the talk, and Joe and I were talking about this, I was out on assignment. I was taking care of some things this afternoon. Well, actually from this morning through this afternoon. And I was thinking about different things, and this hit me, of course. But the source that called me said, it is about the scary talk. And isn't it funny that Alex Jones can get on, it can go on the Piers Morgan and CNN and say what he said in the manner in which he said, and he got a lot of information out there, and has been criticized, just skewered for the manner in which the message was delivered.
Even though he's sticking up for everybody's constitutional
right. Now, what, today? Was it today or last night or after the program and then during the day? Because I'm not even sure how the time played. Go ahead.
This morning I have the audio queued up from what happened on the show on Piers Morgan from last night. And we also have a reality check, Piers Morgan versus Alex Jones, the truth about gun homicide rates.
Hold up on that one, though.
And that's Ben Swan, and he really gives the real numbers, the real, and they're very accurate, and it's right on the money, and this is what should have been debated when Jones went on, but
it wasn't, but there was a reason why Jones did what he did. I know this now, and I know this better now than I did yesterday. And I guess the other thing I'm saying to you is this: the fighting. And Joe had played some clips for me before showtime from Ed Schultz, for example.
Yeah.
That would put Alex Jones, that would make Alex Jones a little rant on Piers Morgan. It would be
same thing.
Yeah, exactly. But see, it's all about the scary talk now. It's all about. Isn't it interesting now how the entire conversation has turned from the situation with the weapons now to, okay, now it's Alex Jones, and it shouldn't be about Alex Jones.
No, remember we had the show Don't Shoot the Messenger?
Exactly, and this is what's taking place, but this is a deliberate, concerted effort on the part of the communists in this country to vilify, to vilify Alex Jones and people like him, and to talk in the manner in which he did about guns and about the 1776 and the Second Amendment. That's verboten. You should not talk about that. But to talk about, shooting, shooting his children, basically, and shooting him.
Yeah. Here, I'll play the clip.
Yeah, go ahead.
Aaron Dykes here for Infowars.com. This gun control debate is reaching dangerous proportions. Last night, Alex Jones debated Piers Morgan on CNN. Tonight, all they can do is talk about the reaction, and on Piers Morgan's program, they talk about they hope Alex's children don't die. Now, Alex was sitting at home with his family and children. They were freaked out and terrorized by those comments, but the program went on to even more outrageous points. Buzz Bissinger, a sports columnist for the Daily Beast, chimed in and said that he thinks the only reason for a semi-automatic weapon is so that Piers Morgan could go in the ring and, quote, pop Alex Jones with that weapon. And then all the guests go on to laugh about it.
I don't care what the justification is, that you are allowed in this country to own a semi-automatic weapon, much less a handgun. But what do you need a semi-automatic weapon for? The only reason I think you need it is, Pierce, challenge Alex Jones to a boxing match, show up with a semi-automatic that you got legally, and pop him.
I'd love to see that. In uniform.
I'll borrow my brother's uniform.
Now, without a doubt, this was a veiled threat. But just imagine if Alex Jones or anyone else made these comments, they'd be arrested immediately, and yet here they are saying them with impunity. Remember, there's been threats against NRA board members, you name it, in the past. These authoritarians don't want peace. They want control, and they're showing it here. Get this out immediately. Signing off for Infowars.com.
And there you have it. Panel Gloria Allred, I think it looks like, talking about challenging to a boxing match and then shoot him with the semi-automatic weapon. And then you hear the panel laugh as if it's funny. And these are the people saying that the guns are the problem.
Exactly, and it's rather disconcerting to me to hear this. Now, let me, Alex Jones today, about 9 minutes into the program, to give you an idea of what this is about, at least from the perspective of my source within the Department of Homeland Security, I want you to take a listen to this clip. This is almost going to be like a background. This is not going to be fed through the computer feed. You're going to hear this through my microphone.
This will be fun.
Well, you know what? I think you should be able to hear it. Now listen carefully. This is today on the Alex Jones program. And, folks, I want you to listen carefully to this, and then I'll explain something else as well afterwards. But here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen,
wow.
The founder of SPS Russian, the biggest gun show in the world, not just on YouTube, about 100 million viewers on average a month, just on YouTube, biggest gun show in the world, was tied up at his offices, his gun manufacturer, and shot in the back of the head execution style. The biggest gun show in the world, the founder, dead. And it's in the back of the local Georgia papers that it's a state police murder investigation. He was executed assassin mafia style. Tied up in a chair, expertly, shot in the back of the head, execution style. We have also discovered in military times that other gun manufacturers and people are dying mysteriously. Now, you remember the head of the Northeast Intelligence Network, who I want to work on getting on tomorrow, Doug Hagmann. Maybe even pop in the day if he can do it. He said 2 weeks ago on this show, but I want to go back and find the clip. It's one thing for me to say, oh, he was on the show and said this, and new listeners are like, yeah, I bet. We have to, it's why we got to hire some more crew, because you guys are working really hard, but I need staff to go back and go, okay, that was the, not the last interview, but the interview before last. It was like 2 weeks ago. We've got to go into that interview, and he says, my federal source, he's got a lot of those sources, says there's going to be a purge. He goes, assassinations of pro-gun leaders. And it'll look like you get mugged or crack dealers go after you. And that's why whenever I was being stalked in New York, I would look like police. And normally, again, you're going to CNN. You're walking 10 blocks. So they wanted to have a car deliver us. I said, no, I'll walk. I wanted some exercise. I wanted to wake back up because I'd been up since 5 a.m. And, one guy pops out, looks like a cop. On a street, you're walking up 10 blocks, taking turns. Goes, hey, Alex Jones, I'm a big fan. And you think, okay, that guy's a listener. But then it happens with another guy. Then you see other guys with the windbreakers and the obvious cop type. Once you've been around this 100 times, you know what it looks like. And I've been around Bloomberg a few times where he has like 15 detectives around him. That's his security. That's exactly how they act. The whole confident thing, where they act like gangsters, basically, these type of detectives.
All right. Folks, were you able to hear that pretty clearly? That was about the gun show owner. And by the way, that did two birds with one stone, I suppose. I'll be a guest for a couple of segments, half hour, an hour, whatever, tomorrow at 12:30 with Alex Jones. So, as an FYI. All right. But the story here, there's two things that I want to bring up. I'll bring up the one issue that really is important: the intimidation that I know what took place before, and even during and after his appearance on Piers Morgan, and also from the time he landed until the time he left. That's something to be aware of.
Yeah. And talking about, these killings, one thing that Brzezinski writes in his book about the totalitarian and autocracy and dictatorship, he writes this: an inherent trait in the totalitarian dictatorship is always playing on the extremes of emotions between personal and situational conditions. He goes on to say, let us review. In the initial period after the seizure of power, the major energy and machinery of the terror is directed at the obvious enemies, such as the Social Democrats who were in Germany, the Mensheviks or Borghies in Russia, the Democratic parties in Eastern Europe. Only when such enemies are destroyed is the sword of the regime turned against the masses. Only then does the masses' terror gradually develop.
Yes. Now, okay. I was trying to follow, and this is why I don't do two things at one time. I was trying to follow there's a comment in chat about the FPS Russia found dead, the head of the largest gun show, and then, of course, his alleged ties to the Russian mob. Or I didn't catch it exactly. Maybe I'm misquoting it, but look. This gentleman
that says the FSB dealt with the Russian mob.
Okay, but the important thing is this weapons manager of YouTube Top Gun Show FPS Russia was found tied to a chair, murdered. He was executed, and deputies in Georgia are trying to figure out what happened to a Kentucky man found shot dead. I believe this is last week. It's interesting. Investigators aren't positive. Now get this, okay? Basically tied in duct tape to a chair, I believe it was, or tied to a chair, with a shot with a bullet wound to the head, and they're not sure if it was murder. All right, now look, I know what they did to the Shelby County coroner O.C. Smith in Nashville when he was getting too close to certain things. They wrapped him up in barbed wire, taped the bomb to his chest, and then blamed it on him for wanting sympathy. I understand how these people work, and I'm going to tell you right now, there are people out there who are being targeted, and you've got to understand this. There are people like Alex Jones. Does he have something to worry about? He does. Anyone who speaks out and who does so effectively, or who facilitates the weapons, the pro-weapons position to influence a number of people or to facilitate the arming of the American public in any way, shape, or form, effectively and largely, they are on the list of targets. And that's why, one of the reasons why Jones was extremely concerned, because knowing this in the back of your mind, it does happen, folks, where, you could be driving down the road and get stopped, and if they are looking for a reason to arrest you, and as much as it pains me to say this, it doesn't happen all the time, obviously, but if they're looking for a reason to shoot you, they will do that. Planting evidence. I mean, we're talking about an entirely different level of police, if you will, or not even police, but of mindset. It's not your county sheriff or deputy stopping you for a traffic stop, or your municipal township police officer or something. This is something much more severe. And I was told back when I was on his show back on the 26th or 27th, or maybe both days, that things like this were going to start taking place. And I didn't even know until today that this Russian FPS Russia guy was found.
Yeah, and there's another guy that was killed who worked with him or in the same line of work with him, and was found dead in a mysterious car crash, from what I understand.
All right.
Also.
So just be aware of the fact that I guess the big thing here is there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. It's not about, the discussion should not be about Alex Jones. It should be about the evil talk associated with the guns. Every time you're being conditioned to think of these black semi-automatic weapons being evil devices, it's all about the conditioning with the words being used about the weapons.
Well, let's go back to the founding fathers. George Mason said this. I asked, sir, what is the militia? It is the whole people. To disarm the people is the best and most effectual way to enslave them. George Washington said, when he was president, firearms stand next in importance to the Constitution itself. They are the American people's liberty, teeth, and keystone under independence. From the hour of the Pilgrims landed to the present-day events, occurrences and tendencies prove that to ensure peace, security, and happiness, the rifle and pistol are equally indispensable. The very atmosphere of firearms anywhere restrains evil influence. They deserve a place of honor with all that is good. And I could go on with other quotes from other presidents. And
I think the important thing is, and I know people get fatigued about talking about the singular issue, but if you look at it as being perhaps the spark that ignites what is one of the sparks that will ignite the country, or the fuel, part of the fuel, or look at it as with the seriousness that you need to look at it. I'm sorry I'm not as articulate as I really need to be, but you've got to understand that they have ratcheted things up to levels that I really personally did not think it would be at this level at this point.
No.
Without another incident.
I know I was talking to somebody today or yesterday, and think of if Mitt Romney was elected. Did Obama do anything to bring about this change in the way things happen?
No.
Okay.
But wait a minute.
He wasn't involved in the school shootings. He didn't do any policy to all these things that they say are happening, this violence, this gun grabbing. He's not. If Romney were president, right, these shootings still happen, everything still happens. Okay, the same language, the same rhetoric coming out of the mainstream, it would be exactly the same. In my opinion,
out of the leftist media,
out of the left and right. Well, Fox has been calling for gun control, off and on, depending on who's on there. It is not a bipartisan issue.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I'm sorry, I'm slow in the uptake right now, but okay, I got you. Okay, yes.
So, and we see, Governor Cuomo gave a speech today where he stated, you don't need an assault rifle with 10 bullets to kill a deer. In the same speech, he talked about legalizing marijuana for up to 15 grams while outlawing guns. And one of the comments on there said it best. And I talked with Keith Hansen today, and he didn't have a chance to come on tonight to voice his opinion about this, but he said he was very upset. He was bleeding through his head, and that what Cuomo was saying, he was talking about what Cuomo was saying, and how ridiculous it is. And once again, how many times you have to reiterate the fact that the guns are not here to protect or to hunt or sport shooting.
Right.
It is the best way, the only way to keep a free people and to defend against tyranny. Thomas Jefferson said those who hammer their guns into the plowshares will plow for those who do not.
Yeah, I was looking for that quote, and I'm glad you mentioned that quote because that's exactly correct. And one of the issues, too, was we talk about on this show that the outlawing and banning registering and then registering your guns and then the subsequent confiscation or outlawing of the guns always leads to genocide.
Mm-hmm.
But the argument, there are certain arguments popping up, and they are deliberately, but they're deliberately put into place here. The arguments are, well, it didn't happen in England, it didn't happen in Australia.
Yeah, it didn't lead to more gun violence in certain areas.
No, I'm talking about the genocide factor. In other words, for example, Rwanda, China, all the communist countries, all the big things that happened in the 20th century.
Yeah, from the Ottoman Empire to the Nazis.
There's a lag time, okay? There is a lag time. It could be 5 years, could be 15 years, could be 25 years. There's always a lag time there, or there has been, or can be. And so, in some, it's a very short period of time. Others, it's a longer period of time. Just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean it's not going to happen, given other circumstances. So don't fall for that argument.
No.
Just be very aware of this. But what scares me, or what frightens me at this point in terms of what's going to happen next, is the potential for Obama to exercise dictatorial powers to get this done. To create, to criminalize, or to somehow throttle the people's Second Amendment rights. This is the problem I've got. Do we have something on this?
We have the Ben Swann clip where he gets into the statistics of not the genocide part, but the violent crime rate, the amount of violent crime per 100,000.
Okay. Why don't we get into this, because folks, to show you the
this is where the real debate is. This is where the real numbers are, and this will show you that
how disingenuous. This will show you how disingenuous the Piers Morgan is,
and how disconnected the media is giving the information.
Yes, very, very good clip. And in fact, you'll have to find it on your own and then save it and copy these numbers down too.
This is a reality check from Ben Swann. The truth about gun homicide rates.
Over the past few weeks, the argument over gun control has raged, and among those demanding stricter gun laws is CNN host Piers Morgan. There's one particular stat that Morgan has been citing for weeks. In our commitment to balanced news, Ben investigates the truth behind it in Reality Check.
Last night on CNN's Piers Morgan Tonight, Morgan interviewed radio host Alex Jones. And to say it was wild Well, that would be an understatement. Here's just a small clip.
Answer this question. How many
Why'd
guns...
you get fired from the Daily Mirror for putting out fake stories? You're a hatchet man of the New World Order.
Let's try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over those statistics.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said hundreds.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can...
Against 11,000.
As I said, it was wild, and it got even more wild than that. But we wanted to take a look at some of that exchange, because the stat that Piers Morgan was continuing to cite, one that Great Britain, which banned guns about 15 years ago, had only 35 gun-related murders in 2011, compared to the United States, which had 11,000. Let's start there, because that number is not correct. According to FBI crime stats for 2011, there were 12,664 homicides in the U.S. Of those, 8,583 were caused by firearms. But of those, 400 are listed as justifiable homicide by law enforcement, 260 justifiable homicide by private citizens. On the other hand, it is true that percentage-wise, Britain has a lower gun homicide rate. With a population of 62.6 million, Great Britain saw 59 gun-related homicides for 2011. Still not the 35 Piers Morgan keeps citing. But that shouldn't be surprising that the gun homicide rate in a country that bans guns would be lower than in a country where guns are not banned. Where the argument falls apart is when you attempt to claim that fewer guns equals less crime. The U.S. has the highest gun ownership rate in the world, an average of 88 guns per 100 people. That puts it first in the world for gun ownership. Yemen is second with 54.8 guns per 100 people. So that means the U.S. has the highest gun murder rate as well, right? Well, no. Honduras, El Salvador, and Jamaica have higher rates. So do 24 other countries. The U.S., despite being number 1 in gun ownership, is number 28 in gun homicide, with a rate of 2.97 per 100,000 people. Of course, Piers Morgan isn't calling for the U.S. to be more like El Salvador and Honduras. He's calling for us to be more like Great Britain. So what do the numbers look like there? The UK has the second highest overall crime rate in the EU. The UK has the 5th highest robbery rate, the 4th highest burglary rate. But more importantly, the EU named Britain as the most violent country in the EU. In the UK, there are 2,034 violent crimes per 100,000 people. That puts it way ahead of even South Africa, with a rate of 1,609 per 100,000. In the United States, we're not even in the top 10. The U.S. has a violent crime rate of 466 crimes per 100,000 residents. So what this means for you is that while people like Morgan insist that the U.S. can learn from Great Britain, well, maybe we can. What we might learn is that violent crime is not the result of a gun or any tool. It is the result of the heart of men and women. And that is Reality Check.
You can find the sources for the story posted on our website at fox19.com. If you'd like to make your voice heard in the story, head over to Ben's Facebook page. Find it by searching Ben Swan.
And we are also putting a link to the full interview between Piers Morgan and Alex Jones. It's 2 parts.
It's worth watching it. I was reading it last night.
You need to watch it,
You need to watch it.
You have to watch it.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Even though the gun, we have the most guns per people in the world, we have one of the lowest crime rates when it comes to the, what do they say, 422 per 100,000 violent crimes compared to the UK, 2,000 some per 100,000 is violent crime. And he said it best at the end. It's not the weapon, it's not the gun, it's the person, and it's their heart. But we have today even more. Iowa lawmaker calls for retroactive gun ban confiscation of all semi-automatic weapons.
And the key word there is retroactive as well.
Yep. Representative Dan Mulbauer said government should start confiscating semi-automatic rifles and other firearms. The Democrat from western Iowa town is a cattleman and farmer. The newspaper reported he owns a .410 shotgun, a .22 rifle, and a .22 pistol. We cannot have big guns out here as far as the big guns out here, semi-automatics and all of them, Mulbauer told the newspaper. We can't have those running around here. Those are not hunting weapons. We should ban these weapons in Iowa, adding, and they should be applied, the ban should be applied retroactively. Well, and that's one. story of many.
And this is how I believe it's going to play out, just based on the people who I've talked to. The people who've talked to me, they expect this to be a retroactive criminalization of weapons. There will be no grandfathering in of the high capacity magazines or the various weapons that are identified. So
now let me go. Let's switch gears here. Okay, we're going to Brazil. There was a federal land grab where whole towns were evicted at gunpoint by the UN. Federal Brazilian police and military personnel, somewhere in United Nations uniforms, were forcibly relocating whole communities in Brazil at gunpoint under the guise of returning huge tracts of land to a small group of Indians whose ancestors were allegedly there at some point. Thousands of local residents who have lived in the area for decades or were even born there, however, are fighting back, with critics saying the government's actions smack of Stalinism and may constitute crimes against humanity. Since the latest controversial operation began in November, the state of Mato Grosso, according to the authorities and news reports, citizens opposed being stripped of their property and homes and have been doing everything in their power to stop the assault, setting up roadblocks, batting heavily armed federal forces with stones, sticks, Molotov cocktails, torching government trucks, protesting and refusing to leave. Others cried as their homes were torn down and under armed guard. Reports on the scene, even federal lawmakers suspected bloodshed may be near. Now, they don't have guns to defend themselves.
That's right. I do really suspect at this point that, well, not suspect, I've been told as much. What we're seeing take place right now, aside, well, on the global level, but specifically, they want America out of the way. When I say they, we're talking about the globalists, we're talking about the people in power, the global power masters, and they're going to do this through a number of different ways, and the gun confiscation plays heavily into it. Private property, that issue, what we're seeing playing out, as Joe just explained. Mm-hmm. This is all part of it.
And think about the Federal Reserve printing money to buy mortgage-backed securities.
Yes.
Think about if they do take the guns away. Imagine the Agenda 21 they want to implement, forcing all the population or what's left of it into 25% of the land in America. How are they going to do that? Well, if there's no guns in the Americans' hands, just like they did in Brazil, and what will we be left with? Whatever we can find to throw around.
Not a very pleasant thought, to be sure. Yeah, it's everything. It appears, folks, everything is kind of ramping up.
Yeah,
you've got Biden now coming out with. We opened the show with his quote that, if necessary, Obama will take the initiative of executive orders. I mean, that's dictatorial powers. I find it interesting, too, when I did hear Alex Jones today, that the entire program, I did listen to the entire program. Unfortunately, I was not in a position to be able to call anybody. I'm not even sure why I mentioned that, other than the fact that Ron Paul was on. And Ron Paul was...
He didn't answer. He was kind of cagey when it came to answering questions. I heard that part.
He was. His wording, he chose his words very carefully. And bear in mind, now, he's not in office. So he chose his words carefully, and when Alex Jones asked at the last minute, asked if he was right, if he was correct, that whether this would lead the gun confiscation and criminalization and so on would lead to a 1776 situation. Paul said, I don't know if I'd put it in those words. Once again, it's this movement, or this, as my good friend and source had said, it's all about the scary talk now. Everything's being refocused onto the scary talk along with the evil, scary guns, scary-looking guns. But the issue is the issue is deeper. This is really a deep psychological operation that's taking place. An extremely sophisticated, well-planned, well-orchestrated, multi-dimensional chess game in semantics and also in deed and in action. Same thing, I guess.
It almost seems like they want, and could be wrong, people to act first before they do anything. And they're doing this through these headlines, through their mainstream media outlets, their fourth estate, as they call it, the government-owned media. But we see in the headlines, panic, 1 million AR-15 magazines on back order. Ted Nugent unloads on a talk show. Utah town to encourage arming all households. Gun sales soar in Atlanta. And we see this reaction from their inaction.
But I think perhaps one of the more important aspects of this as well, having this done at the federal level is one more instance of consolidation of power. Because, once again, we can look at Germany. It was not the different states in Germany or areas in Germany. This is a federal consolidation of power that took place. It's the same way that it's going to play out here. It's a federal consolidation of power. And just like the income tax, just like the Federal Reserve, this is one step closer toward this centralization. That's what they're after. It's easier to control. It's easier to control 310 million people when it's one agency or a couple of agencies and a couple of people ahead of those agencies, heading up those agencies. Isn't it easier to control the agenda that they're going after? Of course it is. When you've got 50 different states, to 50 different, the separate or the state power, states' rights, it's not so easy to corrupt.
Right.
It's about centralization of power.
That's right. That's why they use education as a tool of indoctrination. That's why they have passed these sweeping laws as NDAA, the freedom of speech zones. They're arresting people who videotape. They are doing things that they have never done before at a pace they've never done before. But when it comes to the weapons, there's a lot of talk about legislation and executive orders, but we've yet to see something from these.
Right. Now let me back up toward the beginning of the show, and I apologize for the discontinuity of my presentation, but it's kind of a tough thing for me to wrap my brain around. When I was on when I did the interview back on the 27th, I believe it was, or was it last month or the month before? I guess it was in November, or even October. I'm not even sure when, or I don't know when it was. I had said that, according to my source, maybe it was December. I had said that the objective here was to marginalize, and I believe I might have even used the word purge, or maybe that word came from Alex. I'm not sure. But the higher the people, there are lines of division being drawn right now in this country, and you can see it. You can see the lines forming, and you have to realize what's taking place. This is not a passive or a unintended consequence of the discussion. This is the actual directing of the discussion. This is the actual directing of the agenda. So, for example, you've got this Glenn Beck versus Alex Jones. You've got this whoever else versus Alex Jones.
You have people in the alternative media fighting each other over the way they present their information when their messages are supposed to be the same.
Right. This is not what we're seeing right now is not an unintended consequence. This is by design, and that, folks, is what we really need to understand. Maybe I didn't make my point clear earlier, and when I mentioned about people going after others, and of course, what is that FPS Russia gun show? FPS Russia gun show gentleman that was murdered. Where does that fit in? Well, you're going to see people being marginalized both in the media, on social networking, on blogs, but you're also going to see a more nefarious and a more ugly and a very real situation, as I mentioned earlier, about people who will be victims of this type of activity. This is destined to send a message. This is designed to send certain messages for a police agency. Now, I can think of a number of cases where the suicide did look like murder. I mean, it really did. And I was having investigated, through my forensic analysis courses that I took to see exactly, to recreate the situation. I understand. Okay. However, I have, without knowing without looking at the crime scene photos or knowing the exact circumstances, I can tell you that this, for the investigators in Georgia, saying that this gentleman by the name of Keith Ratliff, once again, the head of FPS Russia gun show, biggest gun show in the world, essentially, for them to even consider this being anything but a murder publicly tells me that there's a huge issue here. We cannot allow this to pass. And that was one of the things Jones did say today as well. I don't use cocaine. I don't use drugs. I don't visit hookers in the hotel room. So if I'm found dead in a hotel room with a hooker, or if I'm shot because I'm transporting cocaine, and I'm paraphrasing, just think of the D.C. Madam that he had on. I mean, this is real.
And there's more cases than that. The people who shoot themselves in the head 3 times when committing suicide, and Breitbart, and we could go on and on.
So I just want to caution everyone, just not even caution, just to let people know that this is indeed real. The concern is genuine, and it should be genuine. The battle lines, the real lines, are being drawn, and the whole conversation is being directed by certain semantics. And it's the evil, it's the evil talk. It's a scary talk. It's a scary gun. It's a scary appearance of gun. It's a scary. Watch how we are being directed, because it's no accident. So I just want to. I hope that was clear, and I hope you could not only read or listen to what I was saying, but read between the lines.
All right, I want to hit this story here. Famous church bells to ring for same-sex couples. The Washington National Cathedral had been ready to embrace same-sex marriage for some time, though it took a series of recent events and a new leader for the proponent, a 106-year-old church, to announce Wednesday that it would begin hosting such nuptials. The key development came last July when an Episcopal Church approved a ceremony for same-sex unions as its General Convention in Indianapolis, followed by the legislation of gay marriage in Maryland, which joined the District of Columbia. The National Church made a special allowance for marriage ceremonies in states where gay marriage is legal. Longtime same-sex marriage advocate, Very Reverend Jerry Hall, took over the cathedral then in October. Conversations began even before he arrived to clear the way for the ceremonies at the church, so that often served as a symbolic house of prayer for national celebrations and tragedies.
See, and all of these issues do fit together. Mm-hmm. In this Republic of the United States of America, you've got people that you've got this attack on the morality, on the integrity, on the moral fabric of this country. You've got the attack on the religion. You've got, and what this is too, by attacking the Second Amendment, we are going to sorely lose the First Amendment, and it will become a hate crime. We will not be able to criticize or to take issue with homosexual unions as being abnormal. They will, if they can criminalize the possession of weapons for defensive purposes, or weapons, period, don't you think that they are going to ultimately criminalize what Joe's talking about, the immorality behind the same-sex marriages, the homosexual marriages?
Yeah, the churches that refuse to go along with this this absolute sin that is, this forbiddenness. The churches, they'll be run over. The ones that refuse to perform gay marriages. And you know something, Joe, and I want to thank you so much for really pulling the weight today on certain things. But see, what people don't get is what's the ultimate, what's the big. And this is once again the good friend of the show. It says often, this is for all the marbles, and you hear that, and you hear that often enough, and it loses certain meaning. This is for everything. This is for all the marbles. But I don't want you listeners to you've got to know that this is for all the marbles. What's taking place today? It is a multi-pronged attack to take America out. And it's not the transformation of America. It's the complete destruction of America, with taking America out. And that is so important because, see, the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are going to be combined ultimately into one religion. And I know it's so difficult for people to really understand this. Ultimately, a state religion, where you're not going to be able to, just like it says in the Bible, the ultimate objective, ultimately you're not going to be able to practice. But see, the Muslims would go right along with this agenda because it fits with the communist approach, as we saw in World War II, how they worked together, the Muslims and the Nazis, for example. It fits, but this is the ultimate goal, to take the one true religion, the Christianity, and of course the Judaism, to dilute them and to outlaw them essentially. And how do we know we're living, in these times, these perilous last times? Well, remember the parable of the fig tree, where he says, "Behold the fig tree and all the trees, when they now short forth, and you know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand." That's from Luke, but the one from Matthew is more descriptive, where it talks about when you see the fig trees blossoming and blooming, you know that the season of summer is near. Also, when you see the things happening, the abominations in the church, the way that people are acting, the beginnings of sorrows, also know that will be the time, the season of which we live in. And we should rejoice in that as Christians, as Bible-believing Christians. We should absolutely rejoice in that. I think, but we also have the responsibility, and to quote again the source, to play our zone, because listening to this, being who you are as you listen to this broadcast, and I'll bet you a great
majority of people listening to this broadcast wonder how they got. Well, I'll bet you. I'll talk to you that the percentage of people listening to this broadcast that can feel in your heart or in your spirit that you were born for this day, that you somehow, in some way, you might not know what you're doing, whether you're driving your vehicle right now as you're listening to this, or if you're working in a factory listening to this, or if you're overseas, or you do whatever you're doing. But you were born for this day and this time. God has a plan for you, and it's your responsibility. And see, that's a big responsibility. You might not want to accept it because it's kind of like, come on, really, do I have to do this? It's kind of like sometimes like I feel, really, do I really? I mean, come on, please, but this is, you are, it's you. It's not us necessarily. It's you who are going to be talking to others and influencing others. And that is so important, because if you touch other people's lives, the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, if you will, 1,000, 10,000 times over, 1,000,000 times over. How great is that? And that's what we have to. So combine the knowledge with the word, and you've got a very powerful message and a very powerful position to play. So,
yeah. And what we're going to do, I think, we should do this for the 2 hours remaining we have, is take calls, and I want to get people's reactions on what's going on today with all this talk of banning guns through executive order through different states. Anything that you see on that is important to you, anything we did or didn't cover, we want to hear from you, because we're going to have Nathan Leal tomorrow.
That's right.
Then on Friday, we are going to have Steve Quayle with his Insider.
Yeah, so that's right. Friday, we're probably not going to be taking any calls. I don't see us taking any calls. And I talked to Nathan Leal. For the sake of program continuity, we're not going to be taking any calls. His preference is to lay out the evidence, kind of like a witness to a jury, you being the jury, and then let you decide. So for both of those programs, if in fact you have specific questions you want to ask, you can send them to either Joe or I. Just click on our email addresses on the front page, or click on our names on the front page of our website, HomelandSecurityUS.com, and we will make sure that the questions are incorporated to the appropriate person and accordingly.
And then Sunday, we're going to have Steve Quayle and Tom Horn.
Right.
For a special program. Both Friday and Sunday will be from 9 to midnight Eastern Time. You're not going to want to miss those shows. Another article here I want to hit before we end this first hour and take calls. There's a minimum of 40 children paralyzed after a new meningitis vaccine was given. On December 20th, 2012, a vaccination tragedy hit a small village of Guerrero located in northern Chad, Africa. According to the newspaper La Vox, out of 500 children who received the new meningitis vaccine, it's called MENAFRI vac. At least 40 of them between the ages of 7 and 18 have become paralyzed. Those children are also suffering from hallucinations and convulsions. Since this report, the true extent of this tragedy is coming to light, as the parents of the vaccinated children have reportedly yet more injuries. The authorities in the area are shaken as citizens set fire to sanitary administration vehicles in a demonstration and a frustration and anger at their government neglect. And listen to who is behind this company. It's not going to surprise you. The World Health Organization and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
And we all know that Bill and Melinda Gates are huge
eugenics.
Huge advocates for eugenics and for population control. You cannot make this stuff up.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. There's even a story I saw on the flu outbreak that people are saying is really bad. The one person died from the flu who got the flu shot. I think there's been 18 confirmed deaths, but they are turning ambulances away and creating the state of fear you would expect when flu season comes around.
Right. And is that, Joe, is that by,
every year people die from the flu.
Right.
This is not an outbreak of some disease, okay?
Right.
It's not out of control. If there was some strand of flu that they couldn't treat and was spreading, I would say that would be a cause for major concern.
Right.
That's not what we're seeing. But the flu, they're saying hospital goers are warned to wear masks to avoid the flu. Tents are being set up, ambulances turned away, and they are turning this into for the effect of getting people to get vaccinated, are turning this into a huge media issue. And it is sad that people die from the flu, but it does happen. It's always happened. Vaccines never, in all the times vaccines have been around, has there ever been a year nobody died from the flu? No.
Nobody died from the flu or from the vaccine?
From the flu. It doesn't matter. People who get vaccines or don't get vaccines, both of them are dying from the flu.
Correct.
So what's the point?
Anyway, I agree. No, and that's a good point. Wow. Okay.
With that, we're going to go to break. We're going to take your calls at 661-244-9839 for the rest of the 2 hours we have, because we won't be taking calls until Monday. So give us a call and tell us what you think about today's news, anything you have, anything we've covered. It's your chance.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
Hey, welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. This is a live broadcast. It is January 9th, 2013. It's a Wednesday. Just to let you know, on Thursday, tomorrow, Nathan Leal talking about the inauguration of Barack Hussein Obama and the significance of that in the larger sense from a different perspective, shall we say, from a globalist perspective, from a very interesting. It's a program tomorrow you're not going to want to miss, and then Friday 9 to midnight, new time, different time. We're going to be delayed by an hour, so it's going to be from 9 to midnight. Steve Quayle and his Financial Insider, which is rescheduled from last Sunday. We do pray and hope that we're able to get that broadcast off and without a hitch. And then Sunday, Tom Horn. And I just want to mention, yesterday I had the pleasure of being on with Rick Wiles on his program. It was a good interview. You can find that at truenews.com. That's TRUNEWS, True News without the E.com. And then tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern, I'm 99% sure. I mean, it's the only thing I haven't received is exactly the mode of whether it's going to be video, Skype, or a video interview or not. But I'll be on with Alex Jones tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Time. And I just wanted to mention that. And then, of course, the rest of the show tonight, because of our full plate here, we'll be taking your calls. And if you can be particularly on point, we'd really appreciate it, on point with whatever your concern might be. We'll entertain all of your concerns, all of your ideas, your thoughts, but if you can consolidate them so we can get as many callers in as possible. So with that, Joe, what's your take? What's up?
Well, we got some callers on hold, and if you want to join the conversation, 661-244-9639 is the number. You can get online, and we'll bring you on here. We're going to go in order from how long people have been on hold, and I think we got Long Island, Dave.
Yeah, we don't screen calls, by the way. So,
hey, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Well,
you're
yeah,
up.
no. Don't even ask that question anymore. Like Savage used to say, I can understand we're not doing too great, everybody, But, Doug, I just want to say real quick, I explained that thing about, the floor shaker and everything, and I was in the chat yesterday, and some people who were saying, get some backbone and all this and that. I guess I'm a little stressed out, here, being here, and I know what's around me. I don't even know how to put my finger on it. Everything is going through my mind. Steve Quayle, things about, even that guy, his friend, I can't remember, with the sunglasses, the ex-law enforcement state trooper. Saying, I had a lot of stuff involved. I did the wrong thing. I had a weapon or two taken away. I got them back, snuck around it, and got it back. I'm sure the ADA wasn't too happy on that. And I got a sheriff living 2 doors away. I'm a marked man almost, and I guess that's, I don't mind me being taken out, with a red dot on me, but, please, it's being stretched out too long. That's the way I feel. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to make anybody feel that I'm not with the Lord, because I know the Lord helped me in taking out this floor shaker that was antagonizing me for like 3 or 4 months. But you also mentioned things about, some people trying to do things to that guy that was doing stuff to the wife. I had some papers. I was actually living in an apartment house on the island here. I never said this to anybody, not on a radio show, but I was in a place. Well, I found out that the people downstairs were Pakistani. Then I found out from a black guy, Rob, a real nice guy. He says, yeah, they're Pakistani. Well, as soon as they heard me with the St. Patrick's Day parade, they started stomping. Believe it or not, this happened. And every time...
Oh, yeah, I believe that. I've actually, yes, I believe that.
It's unbelievable what I'm going through. I've been in 4 different complexes on this island, and the first one was in Hampton Bays, and I had a girl, I believe, upstairs throwing little stones at my truck because she heard me listening to Savage back in 2005. My pro-life stance and stuff like that. Then I go to another place. I had a maintenance guy, smash my door, I believe. I can't prove it. I believe, I actually believe that he actually came in. I didn't have any security devices at that time, but I do now. Came in and actually did just bent a little piece of my front iron sight. I straightened it back with with something. I got it back, but I knew that this thing was hit right there, and I saw the mark, and I says that wasn't like that when I bought it. So I had a lot of stuff done to me. I can't even think now, but what I'm trying to get at, I had papers. I had Muslim girls where the husband threw battery acid in their faces, and I think I got it from Atlas Shrugs or Jihad Watch. And I printed it out in color, and it was all these little pictures, but very defined, of the girls where the Islamic threw things in their face. Well, after this stuff was going on in there, I was bold. I started playing all Christian hymns. I started saying there's only one God but Jesus Christ. I started saying Allah is not a God. There was actually 5 Pakistani families in there. I got Rob. When I found that out, he said they work in 7-Eleven across the street, and they all live in...
Yeah, Dave, Joe and I witnessed this very activity in Buffalo, New York, where there was an Islamic concern took over actually a Catholic church with their approval in the houses nearby, and some of the holdouts within the neighborhood. Honest to goodness, we actually heard the dueling, and people might think that this is absolutely crazy and made up, but the dueling Christian music versus Muslim, I don't want to say the call to prayer, but the Muslim music, if you will. You cannot make this up, but it does happen. So yes, it does happen.
Yeah, so I left that place. I smashed a dumbbell on their floor because they were shaking my bedroom. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I know, really, I sincerely, Doug, somebody was in the attic. The attic thing was open. I called the police once or twice on that one. The superintendent said the attic door stays open. That means I went up there, and you can go from apartment to apartment up on the top. I said, why do you leave it open? He says, for the fire department or something like that. We can't close it. It's unbelievable. So I just smashed it down on the way. I just figured it was a young kid from 7-Eleven harassing me again, and I just smashed it on the floor, and the super came over and he said that you knocked the ceiling down from them underneath, and it was hanging on the thing. So then I got an eviction notice, and I was grateful for it. I left, and I was going up to put my stuff in storage. I was going to look for another place, and that's when I think I mentioned to you some time ago, I saw the Crown Vic. As soon as I went to the storage place, I saw the Crown Vic. I said, these guys are cops. I go over to them. I park my vehicle. I go over to them. You guys on the job? Yeah. So I said, so I had a lot of interaction, and it's almost like I'm a marked man. And as far as living here, those people might have been out, the woman and whoever, the 2 young people or whatever, but the people around here all know that I'm a gun enthusiast. They know I go to the range. I got the sheriff 2 doors away. This guy is jacked like unbelievable. It's a 55 and older community. He's not too really nice. He was on my tail one time. It was almost like I felt like he was trying to intimidate me when he first came in this place. He came in at 2 weeks after I was here. it was very ironical on that. So having a lot of interaction, not so much now, but there was a lot of interaction with law enforcement and stuff like that. So I guess I'm just a little stressed out with all this that's going on right now. So I don't want anybody to think
you're gonna have to look, Dave. You're gonna have to really settle down, because people are like rubber bands. You can only stretch them so far. You're gonna have to pray a little bit and back off. Don't be so aggressive.
Well, not aggressive anymore, Doug. I'm not aggressive anymore. But I've I'm not. Nothing's happening to me now. The floor shaking has stopped. Everything is cool. But I know that the people still don't like my stance. Like I had one girl. They must listen to what I say. And she came over to me some time ago, and she goes that basically she was saying that God isn't the way that He was back in Sodom and Gomorrah. God is He's changed according to the people. The way the people have changed. And there's a lot of, and she's a Catholic, I'll say, there's a lot of Catholics and there's a lot of Christians that buy into this crap, that God has changed because the people have changed. And I don't go for that. He doesn't change.
No. No,
so
I'm
sort of like a little outcast here among the people here. They call themselves Christians, but to me, I don't call them Christians. So I know I'm not like the outcast.
One thing, Dave, a word of advice I can offer you is you don't have to worry about what other people think of you. You don't have to worry about what other people think your beliefs mean. As long as you are all right with Jesus, that's the only thing you need to be worried about. And only need to be worried about what He thinks of you. And don't let your spirit be troubled over.
But I don't feel like
physical.
I don't want to go down without fighting. You know what I mean? I don't want to get. I don't want to be handcuffed and taken away without even having a fight. You know what I mean?
Who does?
But yeah, I just want to say this: if you don't hear from me, if in case I make a move within the next couple of days, and you don't hear from me in 2 or 3 weeks, then you know that something happened to me. All right, that's all I'd like to say, and I thank you all for everything.
We'll keep tabs on you.
Yeah, we got your number.
We can give you always in one, my friend. We'll keep tabs on you. All right, buddy.
Okay. Thanks.
God bless.
God bless everybody.
All right, that's Dave from Long Island.
We don't.
Frequent caller, yeah. Having troubles lately and getting them taken care of, hopefully. We're going to go to Donna next. Donna, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
God bless you guys for your show. I look forward to it every evening. It's my only solace. I hate to say I live alone. Pretty pathetic, I know. However, I was listening to your show last night, and I thought of Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah. And then I don't know why, I just kind of felt it in my heart when Jeremiah was trying to warn the people of Israel to turn back to God. And at some point, then it was just surrender to Babylon. Because they were being, at one point it was, repent, and then the next thing was surrender. You're going to be invaded, basically. I also thought, I don't know if you guys know it, or maybe I heard it from you, the 40th anniversary of abortions is coming up this month. So when it was made legal. 40 is kind of a big number in the Bible. They wander for 40 years. I don't know if that's significant, but it is coming up, and it kind of, just kind of thought about that. Also, God doesn't change. God means what He says and says what He means. So for the previous caller, Dave, I think he's correct. And Alex Jones, I knew that had to come up. I watched it on YouTube, which I want you to know I had to do this on my Kindle, I just bought this Kindle, and it's not easy. I had to watch you guys. I finally figured it out a little bit. My computer, don't know what's going on with it. Just got it fixed. 2 or 3 months ago when I was in California, they loaded new stuff on it. It was all great. And I've been doing some a lot of research. I don't call it strange. I'm just very much into my research. I hear something, I try to vet it. So I look up stuff like on Fox, and then I look at, the executives and look at their, just research. I don't know why I do it. I'm nuts. And just like research. I'm disabled, so I do a lot of research. And then it just went out, and the guy called him. We're still trying to figure out whether it was a hardware thing or software, and they don't know. Mysterious, but I shall keep you abreast of my computer. Anyways, I'm on the Kindle.
Thank you.
And Alex Jones, I'm really sorry that I know Piers Morgan pushed his buttons. I know he did. He's a odd little man. I'm not sure if he's odd. Well, odd. I don't know if he's big, tall. I don't know. However, he is annoying. And I also went back and watched previous episodes with Jesse Ventura. I don't know if you've seen that Jesse Ventura did, I could call it debate, where he was on Piers Morgan's show, and he did a really good job. And I mean, he did a great job. But he was a former governor. He has that kind of experience that sometimes you can see on his face that he was angry. I could tell by the look on his face he was annoyed, angry, but whatever. But he had that experience of being governor and being under the microscope kind of thing, and people questioning you, and I think that's a difficult position for anybody to be in. I would want to choke Piers Morgan. But that's why I'm not being interviewed by Piers Morgan. But I do think that, judging by, like, my mother went and looked at, I guess they were showing clips of it. And, of course, I've been trying to educate my family because my sister's spending a lot of money on a degree that she's going to have a house payment by the time she's done. And I'm like, what are you going to do with this when there's no jobs? You're going to graduate in 2016 and there's going to be no jobs. Well, guess what? If she goes to work for the government, they expunge her loan. And her degree is in behavioral sciences. So, what kind of job you can get with that. And I asked her a pivotal question, and this was the question. I said, the type of degree you have, you could do real good with it. You could help people, or you could do a lot of harm. Well, what is the point? And I said, well, what if you were put in a position, say you had to get a government job, and your job is to come in and break somebody like me? This person's a Christian. We can't seem to get her to give up her thinking. We want you to go in and make her stop, whatever that takes, whatever. You'd be put in a moral position to break somebody down, to do harm. Would you do it? She's like, well, no. But it's easy to say that, but it's hard to say you won't. If you're put in a position where all of a sudden your loans are forgiven, you've got a paying job, and now you're asked to do certain immoral things, like nurses that have to do these. I'm sorry I'm on this abortion thing. And I hope there's Muslims listening, because Muslims need to know this is going to affect them too. Their daughters are going to run down and be able to get the same thing that Christians and any other religious person of any religion, whatever. It's going to affect them. I don't know if they know that, but it is, the new abortion laws. And I'm just really upset about it. I feel very guilty because at one time I was liberal and I voted for the right to choose. But now that I'm a Christian, I feel incredibly guilty about the fact that I voted that way. But now my eyes are open and I see it for what it is. And as far as the guns go, I honestly don't know what they're going to do. And you had made earlier, you had said, it's just, and I had made the same point to my Jehovah's Witness that came to my door because they're against guns. And I kept saying, I don't own a gun, but you can't take away that right, because once you start taking and picking and chipping away, like you whittle wood, eventually there's nothing left. It's the same thing, you whittle away.
People have got to understand the direct correlation between the First and Second Amendments. You take away the first, you lose. You take away the second, you lose all other amendments. But our founding fathers delineated these rights, beginning with the first, followed by the second, and the first and second are linked. They cannot be separated. We lose the Second Amendment, the first is going to go right with it.
Which will have the same hate laws as Europe. And then we won't be having this discussion, because it'll all have to be politically correct and dumbed down, and it's really pathetic and sad. And I don't know what point I was trying to make. I was trying to make a whole bunch of points because my mind was kind of too much coffee today, I guess. Blame it on the coffee.
Well, it happened.
Okay, guys, I really appreciate your show, and I do support it, and I'm going to keep supporting you as long as I can. Could you please address how Agenda 21 is going to affect somebody like me who doesn't have a mortgage? Like, I own my house, so I don't know how are they going to, if you could address that.
You don't own your house. You don't own your house.
Well, You mean I just have a title, right?
You pay tax. You pay tax. If you stop paying that property tax, they take your house away, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe. I just wondered, wait a minute, I don't have the house payment thing, but I do have to pay the taxes. Forget it. I pay lots and lots of taxes, so okay. I get it.
but nonetheless, you're still. I mean, look, I've got my, I got a home and mortgages. So I mean, I plus property taxes. So I understand, and I understand how this is. But Agenda 21, that's just a component of the global governance, and that's a program by itself. In fact, we'll be getting into the nuances of Agenda 21. One of the greatest writers about in fact, Canada Free Press. If you just go to CanadaFreePress.com and type in the search box Agenda 21, you'll find just a wealth of information. So many great writers talking about Agenda 21, and they explain how things will play out. Henry Lamb was a great. He's since passed away, but he was a great writer about Agenda 21 and other globalist issues. But that's just so keep that in the back of your mind as you do research, Donna. Go to CanadaFreePress.com and type in Agenda 21.
I will.
Thank
you, Doug. And you guys, I'll keep listening. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Hey, and Joan, I want to tell you something. And folks, listen to this and think about this. Think carefully about the ramifications behind this. And, this has more meaning than just numbers and years and timeline. But think about this. Since Columbine, when did Columbine take place? That took place in 1999. It seems like, wow, that was a long time ago. 13 years ago. In the past 13 years, we've had 31 mass shootings. 31 in 13 years. It's kind of an interesting configuration of numbers, but I'll leave that alone. In 1999, there were 3. Now, just think about this for a moment. In 1999, there were 3 mass shootings. In 2000, there weren't any. In 2001, of course, there weren't any, except for the major 9/11 attacks. Of course, that was not a mass shooting. That was just a horrific event. In 2002, there was 1. 2003, there was 1. 2004, there was 1. 2005, there was 1. 2006, there was 1. Now, 2007, 4. 2008, an election year, 4. 2009, 6. And then 2010 and 2011, 1 each. 2012, an election year, 16. 16 mass shootings in 2012.
Well, out of those 16, how many can be proven to be real?
Well, that's, and we have spoken before about the...
And I'm not doubting, I don't want to...
When we say real, I mean, the real people died, and
right.
But
I'm not trying to be insensitive, but we know that they have ways of making drills. We see the odd behaviors and the different shootings recently. The most 2 recent ones, the Colorado and Sandy Hook. Absolute. I mean, there is just a laundry list of Sandy Hook. And an interesting thing I learned is the Church of Satan is headquartered out of San Francisco with a secondary place out of Newton, Connecticut. It's only a town of 2,000 people.
We have to keep...
Newtown, sorry.
Newtown. We have to make sure we pronounce that right. Only Newtown, because it has 2 connotations to the name Newtown. And by the way, the woman who wrote The Hunger Games...
Yeah.
Lives in Newtown. Yep. And so does the gentleman who created the board game Scrabble, lives in Newtown. And I think, well, so what? So do the other people. Well, It's just think about the Hunger Games, and in terms of Scrabble, words mean things. Words have means. It's just an interesting eclectic form of population there. Just try to think outside the box. When I mentioned the 31 mass shootings in 13 years, you just think about that, and also think about 16 of those mass shootings taking place in 2012. It's incredible.
And then add on to the fact of that they have a Department of Homeland Security funds a thing called the crisisactors.org, where they stage these events without the knowledge of the people in malls and schools. I read an article yesterday where they spooked students and teachers doing the mass shooting drill inside of the school. Did the same thing in a mall. They were doing crisis acting on the day of the shooting in different parts of the country. Yeah. But the one thing that bothers me, where's any evidence? Where's a shell casing? Where's anything other than the picture of a gun in all the cars around the school? Where is the other brother and the father of the perpetrator and who killed the mother? Where are those two at? Where are, in different videos, you see the families laughing, and the scene looks staged from beginning to end. And like I said, wasn't there. I didn't see it for myself. I only know what I see that is shown to us. But they don't even show the video of the kid they said that did it, who showed up the day before and started an altercation. You have conflicting reports that the mom was found dead in the school, and she was a teacher, and no, she was found dead in her home, and she had no affiliation with the school. I mean, the list goes on. And does so with the Aurora shooting, does so with the Gifford shooting, with the judge, and different weird things happening there. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, something's wrong. How many times have we seen the planes fly into the Twin Towers? It's obviously not a matter of showing the public or not wanting to show the public the gore, as they said in the Osama bin Laden case. Well, we can't release pictures when they conveniently buried him at sea before announcing to the world that they caught him after he has been hiding in a cave with cancer for the last 12 years. I mean, the whole theater, the staging in theater, is part of this.
Well, you mentioned it's interesting, staging in theater. Did you know that the Aurora shooter, and think about this, we're going into the weeds here a little bit, but that's okay. He thought, in fact, I believe that this is on record, he thought that he was in a movie. He had mentioned something about thinking that he was in the movie. His reality was blurred. With respect to, well, even if you go back to Oklahoma City, recall that explosion at the Murrah building. How many children? That was took out a daycare center, and now we have, of course, the Newtown shooting. Killing children gets people's attention, and we know this. What separates America, by the way? What separates the United States from other countries? There's two factors. One is our religious freedom, and the second is our right to bear arms. We know that America must crash. We know, if you want to go back and if you want to entertain the thoughts of the globalists, the people who want to transform this world into a one-world government, whether it's George Bush or George Soros, it doesn't matter. You're looking at the fact that America must crash. America must crash and then be reborn. And think of the myth of the Phoenix, the rebirth of the Phoenix. And that is exactly what's taking place. America, through the economic, the dollar, the attack on the dollar, America must crash and then be reborn. We're coming apart at the seams. But I found it rather interesting. You know, isn't it interesting, too, that you had, with this latest shooting, Queen Elizabeth II commenting on a shooting? They're above that. Royalty is above making any comments of a political nature. So you automatically know you automatically know that there's something different about this. Even all of the other aspects aside, you know that there are different things about this. The other thing, too, the nihilists. We're just seeing an unleashing of nihilists here in this country. There's a war on people, a war taking place. These shooters we are the victims in this, and we're going to be further victimized by the removal or by the banning, by the confiscation, by the criminalization, whatever you want to call it, or whatever does happen, of our weapons of defense. That's what I just wanted to say.
All right, let's go back to the calls. We've got lots of people on hold. We're going to go to area code 812. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, Doug and Joe, I just first want to say thanks for all the work that you all do. I know you're putting your necks on the line to bring this information forward, but I really respect the humility that you bring. It just really shines through. Your honesty, I just want to thank you for that. You take such extremely complex subjects, you do your research, and you lay it out in a structured manner that, even someone simple-minded like me can understand. And it's a hard thing for folks to wake up. As you first start to go down the rabbit hole, you're just in disbelief that anything like this can be happening. So the way that you're presenting this material, I just want to say thank you for doing that, because you're doing such a wonderful service and opening a lot of eyes. The reason that I called was on the Alex Jones thing. It's been on my mind for a while, even before this thing that happened with Piers Morgan. I've been a listener of Alex Jones for a long time, and he's led me to folks like Gerald Celente and Webster Tarpley, lots of places where I've been able to gather additional information to help me understand what's truly going on in the world around us. But one of the things that really bothered me back in the fall, and I started to kind of question a little bit, I don't know so much motives or whatnot, but when Steve Quayle was on the program, and Steve was talking about the Russian troops in the country, once Steve was off the program, Alex was really quick to poo-poo that whole idea that he just didn't see how, Russian troops, would be used in that manner. But since then, that's kind of part of his theme now, that when law enforcement won't do the work that the globalists, ask them to do, that it'll be the foreign troops that come in and do the dirty work. And a similar thing happened, Doug, when you were on, I think, the very first time, and when you were releasing the information from your insider back in the fall initially about, how they're driving us towards this whole civil war. It was another situation when you finished on the program with him, he was, almost talked down to the fact that, well, I don't need an insider because, I know this information because I've read their documents. And knowing the work that you do and listening to Steve for so many years, it moved in my spirit for me just to kind of be on the watch, I guess, for some of the things that he does. So that brings me to the whole Piers Morgan thing. I know the work that you all do, putting yourselves out there, I know that, you're in the crosshairs. Alex knows that. Alex talks about it a lot on the air. So, I understand the amount of stress that he had to have been under as he walked into this, den of vipers, as I like to call it. But what I guess what I'm having a really hard time understanding is that knowing that he's walking into such a progressive and liberal town, and what CNN conveys, and the way that they skew the whole gun control argument, I was nervous before the program even started, and I had the high hopes that, maybe it would turn out different than it did. But when I told a colleague when I went to work the next day, I really felt like Alex just gave them the ammunition that they needed, and that is exactly what when Piers Morgan called into Politico the next day to do an interview. One of his statements was, Alex is one of the best advertisements for gun control that we could have ever asked for. So given the platform that he has, I'm armchair quarterbacking, yes, but I haven't put myself in the position that Alex has gotten to be, a leader in the alternative media. And with all the strides it seems like have been being made in recent time with alternative media and people starting to look more towards it because of just the nonsense and the theater that Joe talks about that goes on in the mainstream, there's a huge responsibility there to understand, what message you're putting out there. And it almost felt like that there was like a spirit of confusion that had just come over him, and he just completely, lost touch of the fact that it was a gun debate, and there were these things that took me years to understand when it comes to, 9/11 as an inside job and Building 7 and all these things he blurted out in just such short little. Nobody is going to understand what he was talking about, but only see that he was just raving. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. I was really upset. Given the platform that he had and the direction that could have gone, now there are sound bites out there that CNN, MSNBC, the Huffington Post, and that's what you've seen online now everywhere is the Alex Jones, Piers Morgan interview. The Second Amendment, out the window. It was the raving lunatic Alex Jones taking on Piers Morgan, and that's what the conversation has become, and I just find that unfortunate. And thank you guys again for all
it is unfortunate. Yeah. Thanks for your call. It is unfortunate that they say that, but that's not the case. It's not his fault.
But no, I understand what this caller's saying because I felt the same way too. And I talked to Keith Hansen, you did too, and we know how he feels. It's like, boy, he couldn't have Jason last night. Alex is like Exhibit A for the gun ban, for the reason behind not gun ban, for the reason behind the stricter gun controls and.
But he's not.
Look at him. He's a lunatic.
Because he's the one running around committing mass shootings or mass fake shootings.
Right. And
he's sticking up for the rights of every person, and the people are turning him down because of the way he did it. And I think that's wrong. I don't know, personally, all the details of the man's life. I never talked to him before. I don't know. And people have different opinions, and that's fine.
I know that he was wound up tighter than a $2 watch, before, during, and even after that interview. Caller, look, I understand where you're coming from because I too feel that if it would have been me, boy, I would have handled that a little bit differently. But then again, I was not in that arena. I wasn't in that hot seat at the time. I don't know.
And you're dealing with
what happened.
A foreign government plant feeding his audience to disarm every single day how bad guns are. Guns are so terrible. Oh, the crime rate in Britain is so much lower because we don't have guns. Like you said in the interview, if you don't like the guns, then go back to where you don't have them.
Yeah.
And then this bothers me because I wanted to get this. The petition from the White House to deport Piers Morgan. Magically, the White House responded to it right after.
We got free speech.
Okay. The White House rejects petition to deport Piers Morgan, but that's not all. There's another article, and I'm trying to find it. They are wrong, and the Daily Caller has this article. The White House is wrong. First Amendment does not protect Piers Morgan from deportation. And I'll explain exactly why and give you the case law. And I'll just go right to it. In 1972, there was a case, clandestine versus Mandel, and they said, your opinion is protected, but your presence in the U.S. is not. So your right for your free speech is protected, but your right to be here is not. And this was linked transcripts from a 72 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that the U.S. Attorney General's refusal to allow a foreign journalist into the United States did not violate the First Amendment. The case resulted from the Nixon administration, Attorney General Richard Clandestine's refusal to grant to grant temporary non-immigration visa to Marxist Belgian journalist Ernest Mandel. So what they say here is that the White House Press Secretary Jay Carney issued a factually incorrect response Wednesday to the White House petition to deport British-born CNN host Piers Morgan, wrongly claiming that who has launched repeated televised attacks on the Second Amendment is protected from deportation by the First Amendment. Now, that's completely constitutionally false.
Right.
President Obama believes that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to bear arms. However, the Constitution not only guarantees an individual right to bear arms, but it also enshrines the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press, fundamental principles that are essential to our democracy, Carney wrote. And how fitting that he says the president defends the Americans' Second Amendment individual right to bear arms, at the same time working on an executive order to take them away from you at the same exact time and day that this article comes out. It's just theater.
Yeah. And Paul, are you still there, or are you?
No, he's
okay.
He's,
well, what we're seeing here, look, and I'm not going to I'm certainly not going to apologize for Alex Jones. I'm not going to criticize him, nor am I going to really comment further on how he handled himself during that interview. Like I said, it's a whole different world being in the hot seat. And you have no idea what happened before, or even within seconds or minutes before.
They're just saying, go shoot them.
Right.
And they're laughing about it.
Right.
The same people that are, protectors of life and want to ban guns for the sake of humanity. The ones who have turned, abortion into just a sacrifice to the Illuminati times a million. It's no more pro-life or pro-choice. It's anti-choice, they call it now. Planned Parenthood spent $5 billion, $500 billion of the tax dollars of the American people funding an abortion every 94 seconds in this country. I mean, but they want to protect life. They want to protect people from gun violence. It makes no sense.
No, it's schizophrenic in its very nature. And here's the other thing as well. As you mentioned, you've got this talk from the progressive left media that's protected, and they're saying, well, go ahead and shoot them, even in jest, like you said before. And I could tell you, when you have young children, it's my understanding Alex has young children, and of course, saying, well, I hope he never gets a call, and where one of his children has been shot. And to have that child hear that or bear witness to that on television, that's extremely traumatic. Yet it's okay for them to say that in their eyes, but it's not okay for Jones to get up there and say, you try to take her guns away, it's going to be 1776 all over again, or what? I'm paraphrasing, of course, but see, and isn't it funny? People talk about being angry. People are angry that we are in this position, that this government and this progressive mindset has pushed us into this adversarial relationship. You don't ever want, whether it's business or whether it's personal, who wants an adversarial relationship? You don't want that. I mean, unless you're looking for drama in your life, and if that's the case, God help you.
Well, if you're talking to people like Piers Morgan, I'd pray for him, but I don't know if I could stand there and talk to him without raising my voice or my hand.
But see, the very people, and this is what I find somewhat hypocritical, and I'm not, and just think about this, because I find it hypocritical that we are in such, right now, this is the moment, the game-changing moment, the hinge moment, when every American should be angry. They should be very angry at what our government is doing. They should be very angry at the fact that they are forcing us to pay for abortions. They should be very angry that we have to have this discussion when we could be having discussion about puppy dogs and kittens. I'm being facetious there. But do you know what I mean? That we are being forced into a position by this mindset of this element of this government that has percolated below the surface. I got an email 2 or 3 days ago from someone who said, "Oh, you're crazy, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn. They've got nothing to do with anything. They've been relegated to the dustbins of history." No. That mindset that was active as the very people back in the 1960s. These are the very people who are running this country here today. People need to understand this. So you're doggone right. We have the right to be angry. Now, when you have, but see, it's one thing to be angry behind a keyboard and the veil of anonymity provided to you by the internet. But how many of you angry keyboard warriors will get out, will push away from your desk, and to go up on national television and say, "Yeah, you go ahead, you try to do this, pal. Yeah, bud, you try to do this, and you will have 1776 on your hands again." See, a lot of people, that's what's in their hearts, in their minds, and that's what they are angry because we have been pushed into this position. So don't tell me just because of the delivery, the message was slaughtered in that respect. I understand all angles of the argument.
And if anybody looks at one person and says, well, because he was looked crazy and made gun owners look bad, that's them. They're stereotyping people.
Yeah, and look, and you understand it. I understand it. We all understand it. We're all big people here listening to this. But there is a time for anger, righteous indignation, righteous anger. And those of you listening who are not righteously angered by what the position our government has placed us in, then I have to say you haven't been paying attention, because we have the right, and I would even dare say the duty, to be angry at the people who have forced us into this position, to be angry at the Bloombergs who say, you know what, you only get 16 ounces of soda in that's the only thing you're allowed to buy. They've got their fingers, their hands, their fists down our throats and into our lives and into every part of our society. And how far? And if you're not angry at the TSA for fondling and sexually assaulting your mother, your wife, your daughter, yourself, and you're a guy standing there and saying, well, it's for the sake of security. Okay, I cannot think of a more, and if you're a proud metrosexual, whatever that means, then you know what? You don't have the guts. I dare say, if you stand there and you would watch someone sexually assault, because that, by definition, that's what it is. See, that's the thing. The anger in this country, the level of anger, and don't tell me that it doesn't exist, because you go to gun shops, there's not only anger, but there's fear. And fear breeds anger and feeds off anger, and anger feeds off fear. And this is exactly what this government has pushed us to. Why do you think you can't buy a bullet for an AR-15 or an AK-47? You think it's because all of a sudden everyone's taken up elk hunting? I don't think so. It's because they know, and we know as Christians, and we know as humans, we know as intellectual beings in our hearts and in our minds, that there is something bad coming down the pike. And it's because of this, of the leaders that we put in there. And and how many of you on a Sunday morning or whatever, you're watching television, you're watching the Sunday morning news programs, or whenever you're watching the news programs, and you see Speaker Bonnier up there folding like a cheap lawn chair with respect to the debt. Okay, and you're not angry. Oh, you are angry. Yet you've got the audacity. You have got the audacity to say, well, I would be a little bit more, I'd have more decorum. Well, perhaps, maybe the decorum should have been there. Maybe. But you know what? It is what it is. It's not about Alex Jones. It's not about Doug Hagmann. It's not about Joe Hagmann. It's not about John Smith. It's not even about Piers Morgan. You know what it is? It's about our rights as human beings, the rights that God gave us, and the rights that were enumerated by the Constitution. That's what this is about, and let's keep our discussions to that. And because of the trampling of by these people of our rights, we have that right to be angry and to channel that anger into prayer and into constructive means.
And look at how it is dividing gun owners, and people who support the Constitution. But let's go back to the phones, and then we're going to go to break, and then we're going to shut up and just take calls.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Area code 305. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, Doug and Joe.
Hi.
You there?
Good evening.
Hi.
Yes.
Well, I guess I'll chime in on Pam.
Pam, okay.
I guess I'll chime in on the Alex Jones subject. I've been listening to and watching Alex for, I don't know, a decade or more. And, there's always been conflict between the different personalities. It goes way back to the days with Bill Cooper, and there was falling out there between Bill Cooper and Alex, and that stuff has been going on for years. But fast forward to Alex's appearance on the Piers Morgan show. Now, my take on it is I thought he did really well, okay? Anybody that's familiar with Alex knows that when he gets pushed, he can go into a major rant, and he did. But what he did what he did in the short time he was on there was he shined a light on that nest of vipers, and he got out information on a major network that nobody else has ever been able to do. Okay?
I've heard that. I've heard that argument made, and I agree with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he panicked them so much that they kicked him out of there, and he didn't even get to do the sit down with the little Lucy lawyer there, Alan Dershowitz. And anybody that even looks at him has to know that he's demonic. And what he did was he shined the light on them. And I'll tell you what, people that I know have really seen the light now, okay? People that really thought there was a point where this could be turned around and they could get the people to side on the Second Amendment and everybody's going to get along and we're going to get to keep our guns and da-da-da-da-da. That's all out the window. Everybody knows that what these people are now. Everybody knows what the plan is. Everybody knows this is a communist takeover, and everybody knows that there's no rational discussion with any of these people, okay? They want us dead just like
Bingo.
The plan was way back when, and that's it. That they hate us. There's no dealing with them, and all Alex did was he kicked it into high gear and he shined the major spotlight on it, okay? And everybody better start praying for Alex and his family, because he's in a serious world of hurt right now. And anybody like Steve Quayle and Hawk and you guys and anybody that's putting it out there is in serious danger, and we better get on our knees and start praying for everybody instead of nitpicking and saying, well, maybe he could have done it, in a better manner like Jesse did or who did or Larry Pratt did or whatever. Alex did what he does, and he just went into high gear. He realized what was going on, and he just got as much information out there as he could, and that's it. What I got
Pam,
to
I
say
love you. Pam, thank you. I don't know how long you've been listening, but God bless you. You have said, you have encapsulated my You've done a great job in conveying that point.
Okay.
Thanks.
Love you guys.
God bless you.
Love you too.
Keep praying for everybody. Everybody pray
Indeed.
for everybody else.
We're going to hit our knees tonight.
Amen. Yeah, we're going to go to break here. But one thing I do find surprising, and I put it in the chat room, we're getting more calls about him than we are an executive order with the gun grab.
We need to get... It's not about any one person here. It's about the agenda. We need to focus on the agenda.
Exactly. But it concerns me that people are more concerned with how he was portrayed than Obama and the vice president today announcing they're going to do something through executive order to confiscate or ban guns.
Exactly. Joe, you hit it.
Where's the outrage from that?
Exactly.
Where's the outrage from Cuomo? Where's the outrage from the Iowa governor? Look at Drudge right now. The right of the people that keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eilena Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about Granland Firearms of British Columbia. I know we've got a ton of listeners up in Canada, and I know we've got many listeners in British Columbia. Granland Firearms of British Columbia, it's a hunter's paradise. Carl Granland, the owner, has been in business for over 20 years in Campbell River, British Columbia, Canada. Folks, you've got to go to their website, GranlandFirearms.com. That's GRANLUND firearms.com. Or just go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, click on the icon on the right-hand side of our page, and go visit the page. Look at some of the photographs. What a beautiful array of photographs. But even more importantly, look at the inventory that they have. They provide all kinds of supplies, gears for hunters, including new and used rifles, shotguns, all kinds of brands. I mean, Ruger, Mossberg, Barlin, Browning, Weatherby, Remington, and so on. They've got a full line of pellet guns, ammunition, reloading supplies, clothing, scopes, binoculars, anything that the hunter might need. And you know what? I would visit Canada. If I were a hunter going on a hunting trip, that's where I'd go. I'd be going up there in the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia, in that area. And I'll tell you, the first person I'd grab a hold of, or even before I went, I'd be talking to Carl Grunland. Carl and his wife are great people. They know what they're talking about. They've been in business for a long time. And even more importantly, by supporting Granland Firearms, you know what? The Granlands are plugged into what's taking place in America and all across the world. They know what's going on. You could get your firearms or supplies from a dealer down the road or in another city. Sometimes they just, they don't care. But these people care. They're like family. They're great people. Just go to HomelandSecurityUS.com. Click on the icon or the small ad there for GranlandFirearms.com. Pay the website a visit. Sign their guest book. Tell them you heard this on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. And if you have any needs, especially if you're in Canada, and especially if you're in British Columbia, give them a call. And by the way, they've got there's a book, I'll tell you. It's called Tree Beyond the River, 2nd edition. It's contains news stories and photographs, pictures. Holy cow! It's about cougar hunting on Vancouver Island. It's by Carl Granlund. You've got to take a look at this book. I'm telling you, it's a fantastic book. And on the link to the book, there is a picture, just an incredible picture of a cougar. Now, I'm a city boy. I've never really seen a cougar except on this website. You got to visit. That's GranlundFirearms.com, GranlundFirearms.com. Tell them Doug and Joe sent you.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour of this Wednesday, January 9th, 2013 show. We're going to go right to your phone calls, and we're going to go to area code 406 first, then go to Chad, then Sheila. 406 here on the air with the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, Doug. Hey, Joe. How you guys doing?
Very well. What's up tonight, sir?
Oh, not a whole lot. I called you guys back in August. Only it was from a different area code.
You're switching numbers. You know, we try to keep your number, but you're switching on us. Well, what's on your mind right now? What's concerning you?
Well, when I called you back in August, I was the one that was telling you to figure out how to keep your primary weapon and your secondary weapon up and running, and how to use it.
Yes. I remember this call.
What you got going on right now is kind of playing out the way I kind of figured it was going to. But everyone right now figured nothing was going to go through Congress or the Senate with Obamacare. And then we figured at last resort the states were going to nullify it through the 10th Amendment. And then we figured that the Supreme Court was going to get rid of it by saying it was illegal. And it got ran through anyway. And yes, we have Joe Biden coming on today and saying that it doesn't matter if Congress isn't willing to play ball. We're going to consult the highest law enforcement in the land, which is the Attorney General, and figure out if this is legal or not for us to just go ahead and use executive orders.
Well, you don't tell me you're putting your hope in Eric Holder, right? You're not doing that, are you?
No, I'm not putting my hope in Eric Holder. What I'm telling you is this is as good as done. What I'm telling you is the same guy that did Fast and Furious and was under indictment and never testified and said he didn't have to testify is going to judge whether Obama can use executive orders to do what he wants to get done. And Eric Holder is going to say, no, he's wrong on it. I mean,
in the history of executive orders, Congress has never blocked a single one, ever.
They just did with Obama, if I'm not mistaken. I remember it from a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
I don't believe so. They've never blocked a single. Oh, yes, they did. I'm sorry. You are correct. You are correct. It was, they did block one executive order. But that aside.
Well, then, how about Bill Clinton? How about Bill Clinton hijacking a tech speech today? I mean, it was supposed to be a speech to a bunch of technology people, and Clinton gets up there and starts speaking, and he just totally hijacked the speech, and the next thing you know, it's about gun control. I mean, that's kind of like going to a bunch of chicken farmers, and they're talking about what breed of chickens they breed, and the next thing you know, you're talking about gun control. I mean, every single one of these rabid liberals that aren't really liberal like Thomas Jefferson was, they're more like communists or fascists And I love how they called Alex Jones a fascist, by the way, because they said that they wouldn't let John Lennon and everyone talk in America, and that Alex Jones was a fascist because he didn't want to let Piers Morgan talk. But anyway,
yeah, they throw out these
that's funny.
words. They have no. That doesn't even meet the definition of it. I mean, they throw out these words without knowing the true definition. Fascist, Nazi. It's learning definitions and then make your accusations.
I try real hard not to laugh when they call Alex Jones a fascist, but anyway, the thing is, Doug, they're going to get this ran through, and you know it. And, I mean, your DHS insider said it, and I've told you this. I talked to you in August. You know who I am. I'm not going to elaborate on it any further than that. My last area code was definitely different. You know that. But
we know who you are, and we also know what you had for supper tonight. I'm just kidding. Just go ahead.
But what I think's going to happen, I don't know. I think they're really, really getting afraid of the Marine Corps. These guys are really starting to step forward. Go on, Oath Keepers. Read what Stuart Rhodes wrote. I mean, I think you really should do a night one night and just ask for military callers. I mean, Alex does it sometimes, but I think you probably got more people listening than you think. See how many you get. I mean, just say I'd like to get military callers. If the board don't light up, then I guess maybe you'll have to skip it. But you got a lot of Marines stepping forward.
That's a good idea.
I mean, you got a lot of Marines stepping forward. It's good to know that during executive orders, who's going to follow unconstitutional orders, in my opinion? I mean, I know a lot of my guys ain't. I know that the guys I've been with and been around, and they're just not going to do it. But I mean, it would be a good idea to get a sounding board. But I mean, go to oathkeepers.org and look at what Stuart Rhodes wrote, and look at the comments. And I mean, they're trying to say that America's switching positions on gun control. I've been on CNN's boards. I've been on ABC's boards. I've been on all these boards, and I read the article may be negative against guns, but then I read what people write positive toward guns. Yeah. And then you can vote the comment up or down. I mean, like 97%, for the positive Second Amendment group, and like 2% or 3% against it. I mean, they're trying to, like you said, they're trying to pull one little incident, or Alex even said today, a husband shoots his wife with a gun, and I mean, it hits the news for days and days, but, 2 people get killed with hammers, and old people getting beat up because black on white crime or white on black crime or whatever it is. It's just a footnote. I mean, they're trying to push an agenda and a political event to get what they want. And the thing I've never ever really liked about liberals is, I don't care if people want to be gay. I don't care if people want to not own guns. I don't care if people want to go and hug and kiss pine trees. That's not my problem. But I don't go to Congress and try and make a law against gay people. I don't go to the Senate and try and make a law against people kissing a pine tree. I don't really care. If that's what they want to do, enjoy it. What I've really, really, really never liked about liberals or the left is you are abnormal, not functional if you are not like them. And if you're not like them, we're going to make a law that says you have to be like us. We are the founding fathers. We're the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and all the rest of them in states' rights. You will not take that away. Fine. You want to live in New York? You can live in states that have laws like Connecticut and like New York and like Illinois. Be happy with that. But don't come to Montana, Wyoming, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, all the Midwestern states, North Dakota, South Dakota. Don't come here and impose everything that's 90 degrees, 180 degrees different than what we believe. Do not come here when we only have one congressman because our population is so low. And none of us believe in what you believe in on the East Coast and the West Coast. Don't you dare come to my state when everyone that lives next to me, my neighbors, my mother, my father, my sisters, my brother, my wife, my former Marines, and tell me I'm going to have to live like you live on the East Coast. I don't live on the East Coast for a damn reason, because I don't want to be conformed to your BS. So you think you're going to go over there and you're going to make your laws and make me abide by them.
Aren't we all Americans, though? Even East Coast, West Coast.
We are all Americans. Hey, and we got. I'm not saying that there's no patriots in the East. I'm not saying there's no patriots in the West. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But I'm saying look at what color those states voted for in the election, and I'm not. There's plenty of patriots there. Don't get me wrong and say that you dang Yankees or whatever. You're the ones running the country. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is don't take a majority or minority of East Coast, West Coast liberals and leftists and impose on the greatest majority of the country, if you were not to do it in the Electoral College, is what I'm saying. I mean, the majority of this country is patriots. And not patriots against the government, but patriots for the Constitution and God-fearing and God-loving. I sure as heck joined the military to defend the Constitution, and because, when I was in the Corps, it was our motto was God, country, Corps. I mean, that's the motto, and I think Marines are really, really on board, because the Marines, like 3 weeks in boot camp, still teach Marine Corps history. You got a choice on Sunday. You can go to church, or if you're non-religious, you can stay and scrub the squad bay. I'm just saying, you got a choice. You don't have to go to church. You can sure scrub the squad bay if you'd rather not go to church. I'm just saying, I'm getting sidetracked and off on all directions now.
No, you're making some good points.
What I said in August.
Good points. Yep.
What I said in August still applies. And I know what Joe said last night, and I don't know why he said it, but I mean, I know he, just like your DHS insider said, they're not coming for your guns, they're coming for you. So you can make your decision.
Yeah. People have to understand that, and you understand that just even better than most. You understand, yeah, the guns are an issue, but the people behind the guns, that ideology is, embraced by the person holding the gun, is the real target. So the person's the real target. The gun is the means to the person.
Do they think? I mean, they already know, Doug, that they're going to show up, and if you're going to try and comply and play nice, they're going to be like, well, I sold, all those ARs I had, I sold those in a yard sale, and that semi-automatic pistol, I sold that at a gun show to Joe Smith. It doesn't matter. They already know your ideology. That's what they're after. I mean, it's to the point now. I mean, executive orders, you're gonna have to. You need to hear from military, and I would really like for you to get Stuart Rhodes on. I mean, you need to go to gunownersofamerica.org and read what Stuart Rhodes wrote and the oath that he's wanting other people to sign on with him. It's just, Alex says it too, we're going to either have to stand together or hang separate. I mean, it's just to that point that they've picked the one single thing that conservatives are going to polarize over and not give any ground. I mean, it's. I've told people before, I'm not going to go into the whole thing I went into in August, but people need to get themselves prepared for whatever they're going to do, and they need to get right with God, and they need to. My best advice is pick a good Marine, or pick someone that they know that was in the Army. And I'm not leaving Air Force and the Navy out. I mean, they've got some good training too. But I'm saying it's a good idea to, talk to some medics, talked to some guys that were firearms instructors, talked to some guys that know Constitution. That's the big thing I like about Stuart Rhodes. Not only was in the Army, not only was he airborne, he was also, went to a prestigious Ivy League school, and he was on Ron Paul's campaign, and I mean, he knows what he's talking about, and constitutional law is his thing. I mean, what we really, really, really have going on is the media hammering and hammering and hammering that the Second Amendment was meant for hunting and sporting and for home defense, when that was not what the Second Amendment was all about. If you remember, it was the militia, and it was to fight against a tyrannical government or a government that got out of control. But the media keeps saying, what do you need an AR-15 or an M4 to go hunting for? Do you need an M4 to go duck hunting? Well, what they're really doing is brainwashing the living heck out of the public that the Second Amendment was designed for people to go hunting, and it's really not even close to what it was even about. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir on a lot of this, but as far as an executive order goes and what Joe was talking about earlier, the executive orders, I mean, they're just, I mean, he went into Egypt with executive orders in the United Nations. I'm really worried what he's going to do is something else. Really, he's going to pass a small executive order on like 100-round mags and say, I don't know what else, but something small, and then some other really bad incident's going to happen, and then he's going to go, well, I need to go all the way with these executive orders, and let's just, I don't know. I read another article that really, really made a lot of sense to me, that the 1968 gun bill that passed after Kennedy, how they made fully automatic weapons and mail-order weapons illegal, and they classified certain weapons as Class 3, and you had to buy a license and all this. He could go an end run with the ATF and say that, well, he can, like the ATF classifies an automatic weapon as a weapon that can fire more than one round by one single pull of the trigger. Well, what if he decides to just go ahead and say, well, let's just reclassify Class 3 as anything that can fire whatever number of bullets are in a magazine by single pulls of the trigger. Something small like that. That's what people are, I mean, I read this one article, and it made a lot of sense. And what if he goes and decides to use go clear back to 1968 and just have the ATF reclassify semi-autos as autos? Just change a couple things in that law that's already present. I mean, what if the ATF just reclassifies any gun that can fire multiple rounds with multiple pulls of the trigger is considered Class 3, and you need a Class 3 license, and we only issued so many Class 3 licenses back in 1968, and those are the same amount that there still are today, and no weapons can be manufactured after that. And if you don't have a Class 3 license, you can't have one. I mean, I'm just throwing some things out there. I read that article. It made a lot of sense. He could definitely fall back on that. It's actually been considered from the article that I read, didn't mean to say wrote, that I read. And, I mean, they got Eric Holder involved. They got attorneys involved. You already know that Feinstein had a meeting with the DHS and the ATF and all that before the election on the new sweeping gun control they were going to try out. I mean, Feinstein was writing this before Obama was elected. And it just makes you kind of wonder what was going on. I mean, why do we have the Aurora shooting and the mall shooting and the Sikh temple shooting and then this shooting? And then all of a sudden Feinstein just shows up and has this bill written that she wrote prior to the election. I mean, I don't know. And if people know what I'm talking about back in August, I mean, go back to that and get yourself back together and get yourself prepared. And, and
okay,
Can you hear me, caller?
I can hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Was I walking
All right.
over you or anything?
No, I'll tell you what. We just lost. Thank you for talking, for giving that monologue, because for the last 2 minutes we have been disconnected from our. We lost all power.
Yeah, everything.
Oh my.
So.
So I'm going to have to change phone numbers again, huh?
Perhaps.
You know, it's weird. Even my cell phone had a full charge. It is dead.
We lost all power. Just went out. So if we sound a little bit frazzled, but thank you for that. For keeping us for
keeping the show going.
Keeping the show going, indeed. I'm not sure if we have echo from.
I was wondering why you guys were so quiet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So hopefully you didn't. You might have to host the show, but no.
Did you guys even hear the thing? Is it going to be on the rebroadcast, or did you hear what I said at all?
I heard some of what you said, and it will be on the rebroadcast.
Yeah, everything stayed up on the. Everything stayed up except our end, which just went totally black.
Wow.
So, I mean,
strange.
Yeah, it is odd, but you know, these are odd times in which we live, and we have to really understand that that weird things do happen. I mean, sometimes things happen, but sometimes weird things happen.
And it's weird. I can't get internet on my laptop either.
Remember me telling you that I would never call again back in August?
You know,
yeah.
Something like this will be my one and only call, or something like that. Yeah. I remember that thinking. It had. I at the time I thought it had to do with the times in which, or the time period in which we were at. But I'm glad you called again.
Just keeping things in mind, and remember what I told you in August. And I'm not going to repeat it right now because it's not a good time. But, guys,
they're dropping their hands.
Hit your knees. And Joe, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not coming to grab your guns. They're coming for you.
Yeah.
And they're coming for they're coming for your ideas. So, just think about what you're going to do from there. And, guys, I love you to death. I pray for you every night. And there's a lot of things going on. And I mean, I've done some things in my life, and it's I've never had this much nervousness about me. So, anyways,
people feel how palpable. I mean, it's the fear, the anxiety. This is palpable, and it's an amazing time in which we live. But God bless you, my friend, and definitely keep in touch, because I think we're going to need that over the in the short term, and even in the interim. We're going to need your wise words and your observations, especially. Definitely keep in touch, my friend.
Well, may God bless you.
God bless you as well.
And you guys have a good night, and I'll quit taking up all your callers' time.
Thanks so much.
Good night. Good night. Semper Fi, God.
Semper Fi.
You. All right, we're going to move on to Chad and then Sheila. Chad, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
I don't know what microphone to talk in to.
How you doing, guys?
Okay. Confused, but fine.
Good.
What's up?
Hey, I actually called you. I know, Doug, that you've been recently just trying to educate yourself on the symbolism and the masonry stuff and the rabbit hole that leads you down, and how overwhelming I know you probably feel about that. But I wanted you to listen to Biden's speech again. Joe, you probably still got that on cue, right? Oh, maybe you don't now.
Yeah,
no,
I do.
We do.
Okay, I want you to listen to the double speak of that speech. The we that he says and the they are not the assumed parties being referred to. Anybody who listens to that speech thinks that he's talking to us. but the we and the they are not the focus of what he is saying. So it's a doublespeak. He's saying two things with only saying one sentence. So listen to that again, and listen to who he says the we and the they are from his perspective or from the Masonic perspective. Go ahead.
Let's bring this up again. It's a short clip.
23 seconds.
23 seconds. Let's bring this up again.
The president is going to act, or executive orders, executive action that can be taken. We haven't decided what that is yet, but we're compiling it all with help of the Attorney General and all the rest of the cabinet members, as well as legislative action we believe is required. So I appreciate you very much being here.
Okay, I didn't catch a they in there. I got the we, but not the
they. Right. What he's saying is that we will take care of it. It's supposed to sound reassuring, but the we he is speaking about and the reassurance he is giving is to the like-minded brethren of their orders.
Caller, really, that's an interesting point, because you had characterized my research into symbolism and numerology and such. It's deeper than that. It's identifying who is behind the shadows, who is behind the curtain, and that does include, the symbolism and that's part of it, but not all of it. And you're right when you say that. Now, when I hear that again, I think I can understand where you're headed with this. We part anyway.
Yeah, it's just a double speak. It's a common practice for those who are higher up in the order to say two different things with one sentence. So when you got to pay attention when they don't identify who the we and the they are. You can't assume who the speaker is speaking of. You can't make the assumption of who the we and the they are when they are not readily identified.
Good point. Yeah, exactly. And that we is very important.
Yeah. I just posted a link in the conference there. I don't know if you have ever gone back to 2008 or 2009, Steve Quayle's interview with David Flynn.
Yes.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I posted that link in there. And those two interviews are key. Those are to, again, go back. If you haven't listened to them when it comes to educating yourself, or anybody else who doesn't understand the numbers and the importance of them and the timing of things, you have to understand. Listen to David Flynn. I mean, the guy was a spiritual genius and gift to us. If you can just hear him, you will get so much. Joe, have you ever heard that recordings?
I don't think you have. No. And David Flynn, I'm trying to think of the name of the book he wrote now.
He wrote Temple at the Center of Time and Sidonia.
Right. I was thinking about the Temple at the Center of Time, I think is the...
Yeah, the Temple at the Center of Time. Now, we were talking about the calendars and the importance of this and the timing and the Mayan thing, and 2012 was bad, just hold your seat for 2013. And I don't know how much, maybe our listeners know more, but anybody else just tuning in, we operate on a Gregorian calendar, right?
Correct.
Do you know what Gregorian means? Gregory?
Go ahead.
Watcher.
Okay.
The Watchers.
Right.
The Watchers are the group of the angels who decided to come down to Mount Hermon in the Genesis 6. As Rob Skiba calls it, the Genesis 6 experiment. Okay?
That's correct.
Okay, these are the ones who are the spiritual beings behind. They're the generals, those guys were shut up, but it's the same spirit that's behind the changing of times and distances and things of that nature to play out. So anyway, I just wanted you that I'll keep it brief, but just go back and listen. When you listen to these speeches that are leaders or officials, anytime they're getting behind a pulpit, listen carefully to what they're saying and try to consider that there is something else being said with the very same words. Who the we and the they are identified. When they don't readily identify them, pay attention, because they're playing on an assumption that you have that we are the ones who are being spoken to.
Very well said. Very well said. And don't forget the difference, and we can go back and compare the Babylonian calendar versus the Gregorian calendar and the significance behind that.
Right. So when you line up the 1776, for instance, this will be just an easy, brief one, okay?
Yeah.
The Greek word, okay. Hebrew and Greek letters are also the numeric system, okay? They each have numbers associated with them.
Correct.
Okay? All right.
Yep.
So the Greek letters, if you spelled out Jesus, the numeric value of this is 888.
In Hebrew?
Okay.
From the
in
Hebrew.
Greek. In Greek.
Or in Greek, okay.
In Greek, 888. That's the numerical value of his name. Now, they had in purpose the purpose for the founding of this nation, their coming of the Messiah, or the second coming, what would be referred to as the second coming. 888 times 2 is what?
Hold on, caller, we're losing you. You're getting cut off.
His numerical value is 888. The second coming, if you take that times 2, you get what number? 888 times 2.
888 times 2. Now you're I don't know if you're talking on a cell phone or Skype, but it's a little choppy there. But go ahead.
It's a cell phone. 1776.
Right.
Is the number you get. Okay.
Right.
So when you start looking into all these things, and it's just amazing. I won't take up any more time. Look at that link, David Flynn. Go to the Watcher website. Steve Quayle's interviews. You can go. I'm sure you can go to his site or Hawk's site and probably still find them archived on there from 2008, 2009. Just give a listen to David Flynn. I know it's hard to understand some of the things that are there, but I guarantee you it will not be a waste of your time if you just give yourself the 1 or 2 hours to listen to what they are speaking about there, because it's more relevant to what we see happening today than what they could even see then, 4 years ago.
I agree, and I do believe I've got that interview downloaded onto a hard drive. We might put it up with their permission onto our YouTube channel, because I think it's an important dissertation. So that said, I'm going to thank you for that.
I'll let you go. All right, bye.
All right. Yeah, and folks,
people in chat are saying we're choppy. It's not the caller.
Oh, we're choppy.
Yeah, I don't know how that is. We're on landlines. But let's move on.
All right.
Sheila, you've been on hold, patiently waiting. We're going to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
You're not choppy to me. I can hear you just fine.
Thank you.
I got something here that goes along, I think, with what they're trying to do with the guns. Have you seen this bill? It's called HJRES 15.
Yes. That's
to
extend the yes. That's to extend the term limits of the president, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Now that pops up every so often. Not that bill. I mean, that attempt pops up every so often. But I'm not so sure, Sheila, that we're going to even have that opportunity once the economic crisis hits. I got a feeling that we're not going to be even entertaining resolutions in the manner. It's going to be a more of a dictatorial situation
than anything else. But yeah, it's interesting that this pops up.
Yeah, right here at this time.
Yes. Well,
you know. I mean, what, you know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doug.
No, Sheila. It's something that I would not put a lot of emphasis on, at least not now. The intent is to keep Obama in office to finish the job of the complete annihilation of America as a republic. People have to understand that, and that's what the job is. It's gonna happen just like the gun legislation or the gun reclassification, ultimate confiscation. That's the ultimate goal. It's going to happen. It doesn't have to happen through Congress. It can happen through executive order, as indicated by Biden. If that does, that's going to hasten the hostilities here in this country. I'm convinced of that.
Well, you know, I noticed last week when Boehner and the like met with Obama at the White House, and the reporters were outside the White House when they all came out. And Nancy Pelosi was the last one to come out, and something stopped her in the driveway. She was scared. You could see it in her face. And she had some man with her, and he was looking somewhere off. The cameras didn't pan to see what was going on. I think there were some hecklers there or whatever. And he reached inside of his jacket, and I was assuming there he was getting ready to pull his gun out, and then he changed his mind, and she just stood there and kept looking, and you could just see the fear in her. And she turned right around and walked right back to the White House. So evidently there was some hecklers going on, and that shows you how they're thinking, they're wondering. They stirred up a hornet's nest here.
Well, Sheila, I've got to say this. I don't know how many people caught this during Obama's speech on the 31st, I believe it was, during the budget talks, when he said, he made this off-handed joke, something about being president over the next 4 years. I hope. Did you catch that? Did you see that?
No.
When was the speech?
I tend to mute him.
Pardon me?
I tend to mute him. I can't stand listening to him talk because he lies so much.
Well, yeah, I understand. I understand. Yeah, I know, but you've got. I mean, we've got to listen to what is being said. But it was an interesting statement. People have made. I caught that live. I don't listen live usually to his speeches, but I was in a position to listen to him live, and I caught that. And I thought, what an odd thing to say. And I have a feeling, just judging by his body language and by watching his body language, by watching his mannerisms, micro expressions even, that wasn't a joke. He did not mean that. There was something more behind that. Now, and I don't want to go where I was going to go, so I'll just leave it at that.
And you were saying just here, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that you were told that he may not last the 4 years he's in there. How interesting is that?
Exactly. And it's interesting because that came before that speech. And now that doesn't mean, something bad happened, or, the termination, or it doesn't mean his death, is what I'm trying to say. It could be impeachment, it could be something totally different, or even the reconstruction of our republic. But I just felt that was a very misplaced, odd thing to say at that time. And I would urge people to look at that. I would urge people to look at it was the fiscal cliff speech on, I think that was on New Year's Eve, during the day.
So I got to listen to him.
Well, Just if you find it, you'll find it on the internet. Just search for Obama speech. I'm trying to think of what other search term you could use. Not finished, or I hope, President, I hope, or something like that. You'll find it. It's interesting. It's a very short clip.
Yeah, I can only take it for a couple minutes, but I got him off.
No, I'm right there with you.
All right, well, I'm sorry about the dead air over there. I was thinking this poor soul had to take over your program for you.
No, I'm glad you did. We're glad you did.
Well, I'm
We're
like,
holy cow.
Yeah, I after about a couple minutes, I'm like, Doug, Joe, were you there? No, you weren't. But that's okay.
Well, you really have to worry when you hear this loud pounding like a battering ram, and then a couple of sounds like squibs through a barrel, and then dead air. Then you'll have to worry. But anyway,
well, we love you
God
anyway. We love you anyway, dead air and all.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a good night.
You
care,
too. Bye-bye, honey.
Bye. All right. We're going to move right along here. Area code 917.
917, you're up.
What's up, guys? God bless you.
God bless you as well. What's on your mind?
What's not on my mind? I mean, the Second Amendment thing is crazy, especially coming from a constitutional lawyer who, I guess, what he studied at school was shredding it to pieces. And the word that could describe 2013 so far is just hypocritical double standards. I mean, whether it's Mayor Bloomberg or I live in New York City, whether it's Bloomberg or Cuomo or Pierce Morgan, the mainstream media, Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, it's just a bunch of hypocrites. Everything they say we can't do, they could do. You could even boil it down to the banks with Wells Fargo and Bank of America. They could launder drug money, but if you sell a couple ounces of illegal drugs, you go to jail. They could steal money from us. They could steal money from us. I could steal $100 from a store, and I'll get arrested. This guy, Bernanke, could print all the fake fiat currency he wants. I could try to make a counterfeit $100 bill, use it in a bodega, and I'm going to jail. The way that this government has, what it's turned into, it's, I'm a big Alex Jones fan. That's how I found you, Doug. Now your son. I listen to you guys every night. It's just sad. It's sad what's happening. And like you said, the Second Amendment is basically there to protect the First.
Yeah, without that, I mean, people don't understand the correlation between the two amendments. And I'll give you one further as well. I recently published an article about Michael Savage being banned from the UK. Think about what would happen if not if, but when our dollar collapses, and then you've got I'll skip a lot of the details, but what would happen if a currency management based in London, England, would take over in America? Think about what would happen to people like Michael Savage, who is already persona non grata in Great Britain, and you've got this built-in mechanism now for an attack on, well, our Constitution would be shredded anyway, but the fact is, there goes. We would all be Michael Savages at this point. And people don't understand how deep and how reflective that situation is, and how much that could, because our government can't protect Michael Savage, they're not going to protect us either.
I know. And they couldn't even get one of our Marines out of prison in Mexico. It's like, you let them into our country and they don't let us out of their jails. It makes no sense. And when you look at the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment really, even though it's still there, I live in New York, unfortunately, with these stupid stop and frisks, which are completely unconstitutional.
Have you been stopped and frisked?
I've been stopped and frisked, and I'm Italian. I'm a white male living in the city, and I've been stopped and frisked for no reason, and I've even had my apartment illegally raided by 8 undercover detectives for no reason. And they put my court date 90 days after I was falsely arrested so that I couldn't file a civil suit, and the judge threw the case out right away.
What were the charges, if I can ask?
I had no charges. They say that they found a substance that looked like something, which it wasn't. But they were looking for guns, and I'm like, I live in the city. I can't even get a hunting rifle possession permit here. That's another thing with this gun control. It's like I hear all these liberals. I'm politically agnostic. If anything, I would want Ron Paul to be president. I just believe in the Constitution and less government.
Right.
And this country, what it's turned into, and you hear all these liberals, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that. They don't even know the proper definition of what a semi-automatic weapon is. My little sister, she lives upstate. If 3 guys broke into her house and 2 of those guys could take 3 bullets each, she's still going to be screwed with the 3rd guy because she's only 4 feet tall. So it's like they don't understand that it's here to protect you. And the war on guns would be just as successful as the war on drugs and the Federal Reserve, only letting the criminals get their hands on it. I mean, look at Chicago, look at New York City. Who has guns here? It's the criminals and it's the police, who some of them might be criminals. We can't protect ourselves here. And it's bittersweet. My rent is cheap. It's close to where I work, but I'm trying to get out of here just because I know either the Treasury bubble is going to pop. I just know this is a designed artificial implosion of our economy, and it's all tying together with the gun control and just all the craziness that's going on, whether it's the DHS, the NSA. It's stressful. Most people, I saw on Drudge today that 81% of New Yorkers voted for Obama, and I find that hard to believe unless it was everybody on welfare. I don't believe what the tally on the vote says, because it's not who votes that counts. It's who counts the votes. You got that right.
Yeah, I don't believe the polls or the numbers from this election. I don't. In fact, I don't. I told Rick Wiles I don't believe we've had an honest election for a while. For the last few elections, I don't believe they've been honest.
And just like Alex Jones told Pierce, he's a hatchet for the New World Order. So are the people running this country. Everybody with the fiscal cliff is, Boehner needs to grow a sack. He's in it too. There's very few. I mean, look at all the senators. 81 senators in Congress voted for the NDAA. What real hardcore American in their right mind would vote for something like that? It makes no sense. And it's scary.
You're exactly,
this world that we live in is scary.
You're exactly right. But you just said something that made me reminded me of something. And folks, I want to toss this out to you. This caller just said something. He said that Alex Jones called Piers Morgan a hatchet man for the New World Order. Okay, now, for all of the criticism against Alex Jones that I've heard and that you've heard, who came after Jones to be interviewed? Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Do you remember anything Arpaio said? Probably not. But you remember that this caller, you remembered Jones successfully got it out, a hatchet man for the New World Order. Isn't that interesting?
And he mentioned the DHS purchasing the 1.6 billion bullets. And he mentioned, democide, and he mentioned Operation Gladio. And I knew they were going to try to make him out to be a conspiracy theory, bringing up 9/11. I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And they flipped his words around to demonize him. And what I'm worried about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. They did. I agree.
Well, I mean, I love AJ. I listen to his show. I listen to all you guys. I try to get as much information as possible. And the only thing, I was happy that he actually, I don't watch the lamestream media because I don't believe in that sort of propaganda. I mean, CNN, Piers Morgan has 550,000 viewers every night. That's nothing. Worst ratings on CNN in 21 years. They're going to move his time slot. He's nothing. Alex Jones has a much bigger audience. But what worries me is that they're going to try to make people, and it's already in the Army manuals about whether you're a Christian, a constitutionalist, a Ron Paul supporter, you're anti-war, you're anti-abortion. They label all these things as a threat domestically, and it's just all coming together. And once the second goes, that's it. I mean, there's only two things that are going to happen with this country.
Which are?
There's either going to be a civil war, which I hope does not happen because we don't need that.
Right.
Or it's going to be similar to what happened to Jewish people. I mean, why do they have these camps? Why did they purchase so many rounds of ammunition? Was it so that people couldn't buy it, so that they could corner the market? Was it to make it so expensive? Who knows? They probably have an inside track to ammunition selling, and they're probably profiting off of this. Who knows with these people? They're so evil. And Satan rules the world. God rules the universe. And it's hard to get people to understand that these guys they're devil. They're evil. They don't care about us. Why would I understand 20 kids were murdered, so we think. I mean, I haven't seen any proof. Security footage. I don't know if you guys know, but did you see the picture that the attorney for James Holmes was actually a mother of one of the victims? Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I saw it. I couldn't tell.
I mean, that the two fathers were involved in the LIBOR scandal, the Bushmaster in the trunk, the medical examiner.
I think it's come out that
the
second father was not involved in the LIBOR scandal, unless the media is just throwing out more information.
We're still looking at that, caller. We're still looking at the depth and the connections with respect to LIBOR and the. I'm not sure his position would give rise or give. I'm not sure his position if there's any merit to that claim, but we're still looking into that. Pastor Langford, by the way, has done a marvelous job of raising some questions, very legitimate questions, as well. But we're looking at this shooting. There are so many inconsistencies here, and
there's too many.
Yeah, there is, and
like
we're not going. By the way, we would be doing our listeners a disservice if we did not ask these questions and if we didn't look into this, even though it is a touchy subject because, children allegedly have perished and tragically. However, these questions, regardless of how uncomfortable they are, still need to be asked, and we need to establish the truth, and that's what we're trying to do.
And that like you mentioned, the author of The Hunger Games, who wrote the book about the child sacrificing, who lived in Newtown. I don't know if you guys heard that the props manager, the guy responsible for the Dark Knight Rises prop material in the movie, he was from Connecticut, and he died mysteriously in a car accident in April. Once you see the light, I try to tell people, like, when you learn to reverse engineer the mainstream media story, and they have these certain talking points that they're bringing up consistently, you know that they're bringing those up consistently because they're participating in propaganda to try to brainwash you or dumb you down to make you think their facts are accurate when they're not, and they don't talk about anything else. And when you get closer to a destination, you could see it clearer than you could than when you left to leave. And I'm at the point in my life where I could see past everything, and because I'm not dumbed down, I don't drink fluoride, I don't drink aspartame, I don't watch TV, I'm at the point in my life where I'm capable of critical thinking, and I'm not scared to ask why. The only fear that I have is like calling a radio show or, you know, going on your website or going on InfoWars. I don't know if these people are tracking every single move I make. I mean, I try to cover myself by using Start Page instead of Google, which is just a proxy search website. I try to cover my tracks on my phone, but I'm also not going to just totally hibernate because they're watching everything that I do. Screw them. This is America.
Don't be afraid. I would not be too concerned with that. I'm going to tell you this: we don't track anybody on our website. That I can tell you for sure. But at some point you've got to, and you've already done this. You've moved on. You moved past the point of saying, well, geez, I'm afraid. Knowledge replaces fear. Knowledge replaces fear, and I'll tell you what, action is where we're headed, and I have a feeling, caller, that we are going to see a lot of action.
Sorry to interrupt you. Our show is over. We ran overtime and didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I listen to you so much, and I just had all these questions for you. I'll call back another time.
All right, my friend. God bless. Good night now.
God bless you guys. Have a good night.
All right. Folks, that'll do it for the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Wednesday.
Tomorrow, Nathan Liao. Not going to want to miss it.
All right. Good night.